Welcome to the lab, everybody. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz, and we got a great show for you tonight. Thank you so much for being here, and got a wonderful panel as always, and I'm so excited to have everybody here. Got an interesting show for you, and let me introduce you to the crew. We got, let's see, down below me, Chris McDonough of the Interview Room. I love your hat, by the way. It looks good on you. And great, by the way, great show yesterday. And I know you have another one coming up tomorrow evening, and you'll have a great panel there as well. And
thank you, Lab Rats.
Dr. Gary Brucato, author of The New Evil, forensic psychologist, and just a overall very smart guy, although never mind, I won't even, it's too early to start. I won't even do it.
Well, Josh, before you get into that, Bob is in the audience. Are you asking Bob to join us? Because
yes,
an accidental oversight. You wanted him on with us.
Yeah. For some reason he wasn't on the thread, but hold on, I'm gonna send Bob, I'm gonna send this to your phone. And so Dr. Gary used to wear Velcro shoes when he was a kid, by the way, Chris.
Did you really?
Yeah, he
Velcro
did.
What were they? Buster Browns? What were they?
He was a kid.
I don't believe anything that Josh.
Are you sure they were?
It's very well documented. It's actually
very large rabbit slippers.
He wrote about it. He's like I think he's a 7.
Oh, I'm going to go to Salvation Army and see if I can find some. Right there, right down by the park in Tucson.
I don't know, for some reason I love the
Nuri.
Oh,
I love
30 grams of protein. It's good stuff.
What are you eating?
It's called Nuri. 30 grams of protein. It's really good.
A lot of protein.
Yes.
John, Chris, that reminds me of a police sergeant who when we first arrived at Oceanside, who was trying to lose weight, and he was drinking Metrocal. But he thought that Metrocal was the beverage. He would go over to the Church's Fried Chicken and get like a 3-piece chicken thing with French fries and use the Metrocal as his beverage, and couldn't understand why he wasn't losing any weight.
Well, remember Pac-Man's car, John?
I inherited Pac-Man's car. Pac-Man was a cop in our city who literally ate across his beat, and he would go wang, 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 wang. Taco wrappers, candy bar wrappers, McDonald's. I mean, the car would be full of trash, about donuts. And then you'd go, and then he'd leave it, and you'd go, "Whoa, Tom, come back here and clean this car out." Oh, I guess I forgot.
It was bad.
Well, I mean,
I had to lose weight for the wedding, so I don't know. I haven't stopped, so I'll keep moving.
The best way to do that is by eating protein. I mean, it just keeps you full for a really long time.
Right.
And that's why people eat steak and chicken and things like that. But if you're just eating filler food, it's not going to help you. You're going to be hungry in an hour or two. So that but those like protein shakes and stuff, they for some reason never seem to I don't know, they don't ever seem to fill me up like they're supposed to. But some people like them. I don't really like them that much. Up in the top, very fuzzy. I think your camera.
I am doing my best to try and get this camera to reset.
Poke your finger at your camera. No,
See?
it did
Close the lid of it, the cover of it for a second.
All right.
Does he?
Because that works for me usually.
I
to pull the plug out.
unknown to this unit.
Who cares? All right.
It's
and you can also go to the wheel, John, down at the bottom.
The
See
wheel.
little there?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have any other camera options when you click on the wheel and you go to camera?
No, it's just I've got camera, Pro
and then
Stream. I've got it's
it should have a pull down there. Is there
I'm
a pull
fuzzy
down?
too.
all right. How about
there it
that?
is right there. Now
There
it's
we
pulled.
go.
Now
That's
I'm
it.
fuzzy, John.
You know what? I didn't make it better. I just transferred it to you.
Yeah, now I'm all messed up.
Fortunately, I'm basically a Luddite with technology. And so you probably wouldn't want me doing things like running a NASA launch or something, because there would just be tragedy.
It's like Apollo 13 all over again.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay, so John Lamb, retired homicide sergeant, and also hostage negotiator and author as well. And we're counting down the days so your new book is coming out, and it should be out fairly soon. And I think Dr. Gary,
I'm hopeful. Yeah.
Well, we're wrapping up a compendium for the Cold Case Foundation, and then I'm working on a next book. But it's like I've got to go in order. It's already bad enough. It's too much on top of everything else. You know what I mean? You can't do two books at the same time. Don't try. But I appreciate you thinking I could.
And that's true. You can't do two at the same time.
I think
your brain can't handle it. It's just not.
I think
like one brain. Yeah.
Can't ride a bicycle backwards.
Yeah, and Chris, great show last night. I saw a lot of feedback about it, and people were
thank you.
Very. I know you put a lot of work into it, and like again, tomorrow you have another one as well, and then Ramsey again, correct?
Yes, Wednesday.
Coming up.
And
Wednesday.
those shows are great too. The Ramsey shows,
It's getting
excellent.
better. Did you see where Burke talked last week for the first time?
No, I didn't see that.
In Detroit.
Wow.
So, yeah, we've been. That's going to be another really, really interesting things are moving in that case.
Yeah, I can't
Let's
wait
see what happens.
Can't wait to see that. And Captain Bob, if you're out there, I did send the phone.
Well, I texted him and I see that it looks like it's red, so I know he knows that we're looking to have him, but I don't know.
Well, maybe he's just. I
told him that he was sending the link, so
yeah, I sent it to his phone, but anyway,
send it to his email.
Maybe that's what I should do. All right.
So I'm sure that all of you see that, on CNN and TMZ and all over the place, this story about the one that I think it's the note that Savannah Guthrie said she believed was real in an interview, about where it's like this apology that, your mother died by accident, because of her heart in the middle of and this weird language has now been released. What is it? Like she's with the earth or with nature or
with nature now.
Nature now. Do we have the full text of it? Because I know a lot of people are talking about it.
Yeah. Well, let me bring it up. But interesting timing, don't you think?
Well, I'm wondering about that. And it's also very interesting because we're very close to the Kalila hearing, aren't we?
Yeah,
Well, Kalila, yeah. Isn't that July
Kalila.
2nd?
Isn't that
Kalila.
coming up, Chris?
You said his name wrong, John.
Am I wrong, Chris? Is that like any day now, right?
Yeah, I think it's like
I thought it was like the beginning of July, right?
Yeah, that was July 2nd.
I mean,
But
is there
it's true.
anybody who wonders if maybe one of the reasons that some information has been held back on the Guthrie matter is that it could affect the case against him?
let's see. Amanda,
Yeah.
I mean, we've all talked about it, and it's like, okay, let's see where it goes. I mean, that was kind
We
of one
can't
of
make
those
a clear
things.
connection yet, right? But we suspect that it has a significance. And
You
we've said
never know. I mean, it was so vague, and as we know in the affidavit, and it's kind of like, wait a minute, what? There's more here. I mean, it's like, what's your definition of, the where'd he go?
Hold
For my
on.
next trick.
Oh,
He's back.
Bullwinkle.
Then
That trick never works.
Struggling here.
Anyway, so it's just, it's one of those anomalies. I mean, we counted 50 of them that one night on the panel, and you just go, okay, well, we got a lot of, holes in the cistern here, in the boat. How do we, we're going to need, what is that, Flex Seal? Where you just start spraying it in the boat, and you can get all the holes covered.
Well, Heather in the audience, who I happen to know from my music page, she said that tomorrow is a hearing. Is that accurate?
Hey, Bob.
Because that would make
Hey
the time
guys,
very interesting.
tomorrow is the Kalila hearing.
So did it get moved? Because I thought it
don't
was
know.
the second. But okay, tomorrow. Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. What's that?
Robert looks dapper up there.
The glass.
Yeah, Robert.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you guys never see my glasses.
Much more intelligent.
What'd you take them off for?
Well, I really don't need them when I'm this close to the computer, but I normally
We've got
wear
another
glasses.
competitor for the 10-pound brain.
But wait a second.
I'm on 11.
That's so funny. But do we have the full text of this ransom, of this note that was sent?
I don't know if they've put the text out, but let me
Or
see
just
what
that line about the nature thing, which is really weird. I'm sorry, like it really looks like somebody murdered her and then like tried to make it look like an abduction where she died by accident and sent this stupid note without realizing that the type of psychopath who kidnaps you from the house probably isn't sending a Hallmark card. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like something doesn't add up about that. Don't you guys all feel that way?
Attempting to establish a narrative early on in the anticipation they're going to be caught.
Yep.
So I'm seeing in chat here from Big Girl at 99 says, I'm hearing it was supposed to be tomorrow. The hearing was supposed to be tomorrow, got moved to the 2nd of July.
Oh,
yeah, got moved
for continuance.
that must have just happened because I heard over the weekend that it was still going tomorrow. So
Yep.
Interesting as to why you'd need a continuance if the defense requested it.
Oops.
All right. So it says the ransom note sent days after the and by the way, for the audience that's just joining us, so basically what has transpired is that there's a more details about the one of the I believe is the second note, basically apologizing or saying that Nancy died during whatever was going on, and that now she is what was the exact verbiage on that? Buried.
She's with nature, resting in nature, something to that effect.
As opposed to with God or something like that.
Yeah, in heaven or whatever else. It's very peculiar phrasing.
Yes, it is. She is with nature.
It's almost poetic.
yeah, what's new? Isn't everything about this case peculiar?
Yeah.
Everything.
Like a kind of animism, or this idea like all of nature as a mystical state, and she's rejoined it. It's strange, but it doesn't sound like the writing of a person who is some kind of thug sociopath.
Yeah. So it says the second ransom note in the Nancy Guthrie case said she died and was buried with nature now. According to a source close to the investigation, the note indicated Nancy's death was not intentional, but did not offer a direct apology. So that, they're like saying, look, we had no intention of killing her. We didn't kill her. She died on accidentally, which, by the way, means nothing in the grand scheme of it, because you're responsible for whatever happens to her if she dies during the commission of a crime. Is that correct, Bob?
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
But the malice aforethought might not be there.
Well, that's what it seems like that's what they're trying to establish, or that they're trying to establish that, hey, we're not these, whoever it is, we're not these terrible people. We weren't just going to kill her and, that was that. We didn't mean for this to happen.
But you did something reckless. Like let's say somebody, a kid, like a 19-year-old, decides they're going to get in their parents' car and they're going to drive it, 125 miles per hour the wrong way down a street. They might not have malice aforethought, but they acted with totally reckless abandon that, let's say, results in a death. I think they press charges, absolutely, but it would be closer to like a manslaughter situation. Wouldn't you think?
I would say we're looking at the felony murder rule here.
I see.
They went in to commit a kidnapping. They can argue the oops defense. Oops, right. We didn't mean to. But you entered this woman's house at 2:00 in the morning, dressed up like in your ski mask and your Michelin Man outfit with a gun. They can offer whatever version of the story they want to, but felony murder rule is in play here.
Oh, because I think that there's one of two reasons I could think of, other than trying to be nice, which I just don't buy. There's one of two reasons why I think somebody would write this note. One is to create a defense in advance. It sounds like we think that's a possibility. And the second is that it's a kind of elimination murder where you need a cover story to make it look like a stranger came in and did this. And the cover story is a stupid one, as is generally the case with people, around you who kill you. I mean by that someone who knows her to some degree, right? Whether it's like a worker or somebody intimate or whatever. But that's always how it is, because they're not sophisticated. So they do things just like this. But that's how I would see it. So is there any other possibility other than those two that anybody thinks could explain this weird note?
Or just pure chaff? Just throw something up in the air as a misdirection. That's like a possibility too.
Yeah, but you asked a question offline, John, that I thought is really the $1 million question. How do they know this is authentic?
Yeah, that is the question. How do we know that what is it that has led them to believe that this is an authentic communication from the offenders?
Certainly not the content, because I don't think a word of it is true. I don't think she died accidentally during a kidnapping, and I don't think she's buried.
Well, from what I understand, the reason they believe that it's real is because the first one had intimate knowledge of the house and how the house was left, but that the second one also came from the same exact place that the first one did. So they believe that the first one had intimate knowledge of the house and how it was left and where things were left. And then the second one comes from the same exact location, email location.
And how are they transmitted? By email?
Yes.
Is there anybody in this panel who believes the two emails were sent from the same place in a confirmed way, that we don't know who sent these emails?
Well,
is there anybody who thinks that? Josh, Chris, tell me. I'm dying to know.
No, I mean, it's the same. It potentially could be the same IP address. However, I'm more curious as to how the suspect has such a I want to be careful what I say here. A photographic memory of the interior of the house that allegedly that's the first night they've ever been into. How did they know exactly what they left behind?
Well, yeah, I mean, according to the first note, that and this is why they believed it, was that they very much knew where things were, the condition of the house, where the watch was, and other things, I believe. So
Okay, so you're
There
I
in
don't
this-
know. If it was somebody's first time in that house, how you could remember that would be very hard to.
you're
Well,
trying
if
to
you're-
pull
particularly since you're in the process of allegedly abducting a woman, but you're going to take the time to, all right, well, the bedroom's here and here's the hallway.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Chris. How
Well-
does someone have that remarkable memory?
Well, I'll say something controversial here. Go figure. If it was staged
Right.
and they staged the watch and the hearing aids and all that, they would have that photographic memory and they would know exactly where they staged it.
Put fastball inside Bob swinging.
Well, Bob, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, that's exactly what I think it is. I think they remember those things because they were placed there
Yeah.
to give impression. And I have to tell you, I would not be shocked
Batter
if
up.
those notes were written before the crime was even committed.
Mhm.
And then the steps are, when you go in there and you're in there for 40 whatever minutes, remember to put this here, just like we're going to say in the note, put that there, whatever. And I have to tell you that I really think, I'm inclined to think that they killed her, and whoever killed her had the plot from the beginning that they were going to blame it on an accident in the context of an abduction. What a clever plot, right? We're going to say that, she died by accident. It was a financial abduction thing. Now we'll never know who did it, and she's out of the way.
And
And
make sure we prop the doors open and knock the light off in the back over by
Right.
the garage.
Exactly. Brilliant. This is what, it's funny. Michael Stone and I, when we were doing the New Evil, we used to sit around and talk about what we wanted to call certain types of crime or whatever. And Michael wanted to he wanted to talk about what he called stupid, brilliant plots. And stupid, brilliant plots are where a couple of people sit around and scheme and think they've got everything figured out. And they are the dumbest, the stupidest plots ever. And I mean, don't you guys think that from a certain perspective, there were bonehead, stupid moves made here by people?
I think so, but I also think that because we're so far down the line in this investigation, things had to just happen perfect for these people so far, because how many cameras have they passed? How many witnesses did they encounter? I mean, it's one of those things where when you look back, when this case is eventually hopefully solved, it wouldn't surprise me if they've ran into 10 witnesses along the way, but nobody knew what they were looking for or understood what they were looking at, and that they're like, oh yeah, we saw this car, but we didn't know who was in it or what was in it. And so I think a lot of that is that they right now, for some reason, even though they're not haven't done everything perfect, they have been able to avoid detection for the most part.
Well, and we'll call this the Nanos effect. You've heard of the Ferguson effect. This is the Nanos effect. And the roadblocks that the sheriff has put in place, Chris laid out a good case for it last night, has to be affecting this case. And I haven't always thought that. I've said otherwise on this panel on Chris's show before, but I'm starting to believe that now, that this has had a significant effect on the progress of the case. Maybe not the quality of work, but the progress of the case.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. And
He has dismantled the department. Well, we're going to talk more about that over the next couple of days. But literally, he has absolutely dismantled that agency, and it's all after the election for those who supported his rival.
Mm-hmm.
The gal that, only lost by 400 votes. Anybody that supported her in that agency, you are now riding pine number 2. And, you're going to be up there writing reports till your fingers get bloody.
Well, I also, and Chris, I don't think that people understand, and I know you guys do, how powerful the sheriff of a county is. They have a ton of pull. I mean, they're one of the most powerful people in the entire county, and at times can have sort of unchecked power, which is a problem when a bad person gets in power. It causes major issues, and they can take out their the retribution that they feel that their opponents deserve with impunity most of the time too.
Well, in most Western states, California is an exception. Oregon and Washington are probably exceptions, but the non-coastal Western states, Wyoming, Montana, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, sheriffs are very powerful. And I'm not saying in every case they are, in every county they are, but generally speaking, sheriffs have a lot of power. I know in Wyoming they certainly do. I saw it firsthand. And they kind of rule the roost when it comes to law enforcement in their respective county.
Where I'm at is very powerful too. And I'm in Northern California, and I mean when like COVID laws came down and stuff, and from the feds and stuff, he just flat out said, no, we don't have to obey any of that kind of stuff. And he, people followed his lead. I mean, he's the number one guy.
Yeah, many of the counties, in my opinion, in California do have very powerful sheriffs. We're seeing one in Riverside County now. Lee Baca, the disgraced former sheriff of Los Angeles County, he was very, very powerful in his day. Peter Pitches, John and Chris, you guys will remember that name from way back in the 70s and early 80s in Los Angeles County. Peter Pitches was
Duffy in San Diego.
John Duffy in San Diego. I ended up working with his son, John Duffy Jr. in Carlsbad for many years. But, I'll say it again. The great Heather McDonough from the Manhattan Institute coined the phrase, the Ferguson effect. And I'm going to steal that from her and call this the Nanos effect. With respect to this investigation, and it is affecting it, in my opinion. Well, Chris, negatively affecting it.
In the Summer Wells case, we saw the Lawson effect. Ronnie Lawson of Hawkins County, who I don't believe is the sheriff there anymore, he wielded his power through that whole thing, and controlled every aspect of it. Now, did the FBI come in? Yeah. Did TBI come in? Yeah. It was his county, his rules, his investigation. And, I think we saw some of that there as well. And that's really when I started to understand how powerful a sheriff is. People say Nanos needs to go. Good luck. Good luck until election time comes up. It is not that easy at all.
They're not. I don't think they're going to be successful in replacing him until the next election. They're not going to be successful in a recall. I think it takes 125,000 voter signatures from Pima County just to initiate the recall move. And I don't think they're even close to that. So it's going to be a tough road. Yeah, he's in office until the next election. And then I think he'll probably be voted out, but I could be wrong on that too.
So I was going to play this really quick because this is now with the information that we have. This is the information, or this is the note that they are responding to, believing that the note is real. And you hear
the second one. This is the first one.
Let me see. Hold on.
It's the first one. It's the second one is where she's sitting next to her.
On behalf of our family.
Okay, that's the first one. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, that's all right.
I thought
that's the one on the top.
This is the same.
We received.
That's the one where they got the note they believed is real.
Yeah. All right.
We received your message and we understand. This is very valuable to us and we will pay.
Savannah Guthrie and her
And
siblings are
we
making
all
a
said when we all saw that, she's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we all suspected it. Yeah. It's true.
Let me see here. I just want the whole thing.
That one.
Here it is.
Minutes or said, listen to this.
Received your message. We received your message and we understand.
Look at Annie.
We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace.
Look how stoic
very
Savannah
valuable.
and Cameron are.
To us, and we will pay.
So a short video.
So basically, they're saying, you know, from the first note, they're saying she died accidentally. We didn't mean to kill her, and they're basically saying, look, we'll pay to get her body back. That's what they're responding to there. Agreed.
Yeah, but why couldn't they tell the public about that note? What was the reason for holding that back? I don't get it. So can anybody think of a reason why? You guys would know better than I from the law enforcement angle. What advantage was there in that?
There was none.
Doesn't make sense. The whole public sat around thinking that the woman could be alive. People went looking for her. Hope was kept afloat. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I don't get it.
Well, maybe that's why we haven't seen the searching that, maybe
that's the reason why he didn't call in the Cajun Navy or the group out of Texas was they already knew.
Very early on, it sounds like. Because I think, I'll just ask everybody up here. I mean, all of us believe that she's passed, correct? I mean, I don't think there's...
Until they have remains, though, or the body, or some evidence that she is in fact deceased, I don't know that they would make that leap and not... I still believe that, when I say make the leap, I'm talking about just based off these letters and these emails, and figuring that those were legit. I still think that they should have deployed the Cajun Navy and other search groups that are competent and allowed that to occur. So, but they, once again, as we've said all along, they have a lot more information than we have, and we just don't know why they made that decision, Gary, to answer your question. There could be a very good reason for it, and there probably is a very good reason for it. We just don't know because we don't have all the info. So,
but it is really hard to fathom what the reason was for keeping that back. I mean, I there's not even any information in it. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, here's one for you. Why write a note and bring it down, or a card and bring it down to the curb? What was that all about? If you already know your mom's deceased in a letter that you got from the kidnapper, what's the purpose of the second note that the family member writes and puts it at the curb?
I mean, it could be posturing.
Well, read the language in that.
Or it could be that law enforcement wasn't sure the note was real.
Yeah, but the family did. She came out and said it. We believe the second note was real.
I think
And that means
they
they believe their mother was deceased.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around I'd have to sit down and understand the order of things, but
Remember the little spider? Oh, what webs we weave.
I know.
I mean, it's not rocket science. I mean, tell me the purpose, tell me the reason of them walking out as a family, arm in arm, hand in hand, and Annie has a card that she's going to place on the curb at the memorial that's no longer there. It's disappeared. Apparently it ended up at KVOA for some strange reason.
How'd it get there?
Great question. There's a note, there's a letter out in front where the memorial used to be. Please bring all items to KVOA, which just happens to be a couple of blocks away from the park that I just showed last night. Coinky dink. Anyway,
Gary,
so go ahead, Bob.
No, continue on that, and then I'll ask Gary the question. Go ahead.
No, I'm just wondering if they have this note, i.e., on the within a certain time frame, then why do you have to leave a card at the memorial to your mother?
I mean, it could just be sentimental.
Yeah, as it's a memorial, so yeah, it could. That's the way I think, or what I think as well.
Yeah, I don't know
I don't recall the wording. Did we ever find the wording of the
Yeah,
card?
it's you can Josh, you can pull it up. Scorched earth.
So Gary, while he's looking for that, you mentioned that you didn't think Nancy was buried. What do you think happened to her body, assuming she's dead?
I think that it was either abandoned somewhere where it was eaten or deteriorated by the elements, which would certainly make her with nature, but not necessarily buried with it, or it was mutilated in some way. Remember that Dr. Burgess and Dr. Petrecka and I at Boston College studied the offenses of mutilation and dismemberment and distinguished between those constructs. And if you look in Wikipedia under dismemberment or mutilation, you'll see our definitions are there put into the literature with Michael Stone, actually. And we discovered that most of the people who do that are doing it to get rid of evidence. What I think is that, especially in an era where a tiny drop of DNA, could lead to somebody's arrest, there is this effort to completely deteriorate bodies, whether it's through fire or leaving them to be destroyed by elements or putting in water or butchery of some sort. And I don't mean to be graphic, but I just do not believe that she was ceremoniously buried. I think the point was to eliminate every speck, which raises the question: what really happened to her that you have to conceal?
Well, do you think
a heart attack and you're going to confess that she died of a heart attack? Leave her somewhere. That means something else happened to her that you do not want found on an autopsy.
So, do you believe the note to be real? Like, do you think it's?
I think that if it was written by the offenders or offender, I think it's offenders, it might have even been written before the crime. It was the cover story. The cover story is, we went in to kidnap her and it was an abduction attempt for money and she died. That's the cover story. I do not believe that story at all. I am increasingly convinced it was, we're going to go in and eliminate this woman and we have to make it look like strangers did it. Why would they do that? They're abducting her for money. Okay, but we can't collect the money because, they're going to figure out who it is. All right, got to make it look like that was our goal, but we're not going to get it because she died accidentally. And I think that is a very typical kind of cover story that would be used in an elimination homicide, where you want somebody out of the way, you got to make it look like a stranger did it. And fake ransom notes are very common. And I think there was a fake ransom note in the Ramsey case, for example.
Look at the verbiage. She's speaking in this. First of all, she's speaking as a child. Hey, this is a very fear-driven language. It's almost like she reverts back to being a child.
Well, Chris?
Yes.
When you showed this letter on the program, and I'm going to point something out again, what's the smallest word on that letter? And it's the one that's underlined. What's
Love.
the most obscured word there?
Love.
Exactly. Why is it the smallest word? Why is it the one that's the most garbled? I'm not a handwriting analyst, but I can look at things and say, well, that's interesting.
Well, and in this note, she's speaking for her husband, her child, and her. Okay. And she starts it off. Where's it at? Mama.
I noticed that Savannah did that too, though.
No, Savannah didn't do that. That was Annie.
No, she called her mommy.
Well, okay.
Didn't she? I remember.
Yeah, she did.
Me.
Go back to the very first. Go back to that other first video.
Let me see here.
And you notice all of the handwriting is angled downward, which tends to indicate depression.
We are standing in ash on scorched earth. Sounds like a burning.
Half of our family. We want to thank all of you for the prayers for our beloved mom. Yes. We feel them, and we continue to believe that she feels them too. We too have heard the reports about a ransom letter in the media. As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk. However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her. We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen. Please reach out to us.
Wait, hold on. This is before or after the note about the we're sorry?
This is before. This is the very first.
Oh, I see.
Mommy, if you are hearing this, you are a strong woman. You are God's precious daughter, Nancy.
Yeah, and so like I don't know if that's, you know, I'm certainly not willing to criticize her for calling her mother mommy, but let me
The one I was interested in is Annie, how she says it.
did she talk in that one?
Yeah, I mean, she had a whole sentence. She had a whole
I know what you're talking
paragraph.
about, yeah, Chris. You just had one of your viewers here asked a question. What I was talking about downward angle, is most prevalent in the first two stanzas, the first four lines. If you'll look at it, and in fact, the way Mama's written, it begins on the left, and it tends to descend. It's not a pronounced downward angle, but if you're looking at it where it begins on the left, it ends lower on the right, and that's what I was talking about as far as that this. I'm sorry, that's my dog who's apparently commenting on my commentary. But that's what I was talking about, and that sort of downward angle in writing can be indicative of someone who's either sad or depressed.
When you look at and so Annie wrote this note, correct, that we're looking at?
Yes.
Okay. When you go back to the first video that they did, I remember being on the show and somebody asked me in the comments or in the questions what I thought about Annie's demeanor, and I said that I thought that she was sedated. And she, I mean, I can only imagine what the family was feeling at this point, but that's what I remember saying about Annie from that first video. She just looked scared to death, but she also looked like she was just in a trance, and in my opinion, she looked somewhat sedated.
Let me see.
Are you queuing that one up, Josh?
Yeah, I'm trying to get the one where Annie speaks, but they seem to on a lot of them they cut hers out. I don't know why.
Woman, talk to her.
She is our beacon.
Okay.
We are her.
Talk to her, and you'll see.
The light
Is this the first one?
Yes. And this is the one where Annie speaks.
Nancy is our mother.
Oh,
We
go
are her
back.
children.
I think they cut it.
She is our.
She's funny, spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. She loves fun and adventure. She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
The light is missing from our lives. Nancy is our mother. We are her children. She is our beacon. She holds fast to joy in all of life's circumstances. She chooses joy day after day. Despite having already passed through great trials of pain and grief, we are always going to be merely human, just normal human people who need our mom. Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home. We miss you.
She lives in constant pain. She is.
Do you know how many days this was after she went missing?
Yeah, it was right after.
Right after they got the notes, right?
Yeah, it was
So
within 4 or 5 days, I think.
Okay.
Without any medicine.
And then the note claims that she died a couple of days after she was abducted.
Needs it to survive.
Yeah, and I think some of this is written, obviously trying to personalize her, trying to, make sure that the perpetrator, if there is a perpetrator, the feds are going to play it as if she's alive and as if she's kidnapped. That's that's just common sense.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to personalize her here, and they're going to ask for that proof of life in the end of this. But what's interesting is they're talking to the perpetrator, and they're trying to personalize her. But you have Annie, into her comments, she says, if Mama, if you're listening, okay. And so Annie's trying to talk to her mom, whereas probably the direction from the BAU was, look, you got to talk directly to the suspects in this thing.
Mm-hmm. We discussed that on your show,
right?
Whether or not we thought the BAU had input in this, and I think we all agreed that they definitely gave them some talking points at least.
Yeah, and that's where I think they crafted some of this and modified it. And Annie modified it as a writer, a poet, to, she's the light, she's this, she's that. And then she, ad libs in there, if you're listening, and she's speaking in past tense. The word if is a really important word when you're under this kind of stress, because it projects, almost this uncertainty.
Yeah.
And you just look at her, the way she is carrying herself. You can see Cameron, you can tell his training is kicked in here as a pilot. an F-16 pilot or whatever kind of pilot he is, right? He's all this military training is kicked into him. You know, what's your social security number? I'm not telling you. Okay, so he's handling the stress, you know, as if he's hitting 3 Gs here. You know, Savannah's about, I think Savannah's been carrying it for the entire family. But when you look at Annie, okay, and what's, you know, what is she projecting? How is she carrying herself? You know, it's almost like everybody has said, well, that was weird. Why did everybody not say that about Cameron? Why did everybody not say that about Savannah? Why is it just this one, you know, person? And now it makes sense because when you go down and see where her shop is and you see the type of people that she surrounds herself with and the environment, I mean, it makes a lot of sense that somebody would project themselves like this because that's who they are. And that's why we kept asking. Victimology is so important here. And this is one of the reasons I went to Tucson. I wanted to know more about the dynamics of why she wasn't chosen, why her house was not chosen by the suspects. Why Nancy's house? There are 3 women in that home. What was it about just Nancy being 84 years old and in the house by herself? But, you know, down the street, you have the exact same scenario. You have a sister of a very famous woman. They're 2.9 miles away from each other. Why was Nancy's home selected and not her sister's? And that was one of the things I really wanted to answer in my own head. It's like, well, wait a minute. This is too close for comfort. Because if the suspect's taking all of his time or whoever this individual is, what then drove it just to an 84-year-old woman in that house? Was it just to kidnap her and take her out and, you know, kind of pry back to Savannah? Well, okay, you're now going to pay me in Bitcoin in, you know, as we talked about the layaway plan, you know, 4 million, 6 million. If that doesn't work, Monday comes around, you can pay me 8. But in the interim, they get 2 letters to a local news station and 1 to TMZ. Well, the first letter comes in, right, to a local news station. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, why are you sending it to the local news station? Simultaneously, Annie's getting a text message from this guy in Hawthorne, California saying, did you get the Bitcoin? Doesn't make any sense. Why not send it to Cameron? Why not send it to Savannah? Why Annie and Tommaso gets that text message from this oddity in Hawthorne?
Well, because they're her caretakers.
How does he know that?
I don't know. It's a good point.
I mean, and this is why it was so interesting to drive into that neighborhood. It literally, like if you take a bowl of spaghetti and just dump it on the table, that's what the streets are like in there. It's like, okay. And I tried really hard to say, okay, I know exactly where I'm headed here. And the only indicator of, you know, you're at Nancy Guthrie's house is her address on her mailbox.
Was that confusing to you?
Very confusing.
Chris,
go ahead. John.
You mentioned when you were showing that, and I'm certain Bob had a similar experience when he was working for the sheriff's office in Wyoming. When you get into neighborhoods like this, I worked in the desert as a deputy sheriff, and along neighborhoods like that, and even if you're working routinely as a deputy every night, it's going to take you quite a while, to learn the ins and outs of streets like that. And so I thought you made a super valid point last night when you said the only way you're going to get here is if you knew where you were going, particularly at night. And that even in daylight, it can be confusing. But after dark, when there are no street lights, there's only one way they got there, and it's that they knew where they were going.
Yeah, I mean, just like I said in Coburger, when I stood in front of the Coburger house, this suspect knows this house and he knows this area. And I did a whole video on it. I stood right behind the house and I said on tape out there, and I see somebody's, I said something that only fits my narrative. No, I say something that my experience and my training and all the other stuff fits the narrative. Not that it's my narrative. There is no way this suspect did not know where he was going. There's no way. I'll go to my grave on it. This suspect knows that neighborhood. I'll guarantee it.
Well, they had to, but they could describe the interior of the house, Chris.
Well, that's the other
describe the interior of the house, then they must have known how to get there. They knew where the house was, and you can take it the next step after that.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Well, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Gary. Go, please.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, well, why did they have to send out a scout to scope the place, to scope the streets out?
Well, I don't think it's a scout. I think it's the same person's.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
In other words, the assumption that was made by the general public was that that person being seen in advance of Porch Guy going to the house on the 31st, I think it was, of January, was preparation for what was coming later. But there could be a different interpretation for why that person is seen. Like they live around there.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, this is a good point, right? Why is A and T contacted, right? Why? Again, you know, I think this is where if we have processed, you know, or we just think through this thing, okay, it even becomes weirder for anyone to contact Annie and Tommaso through a public search engine, get their phone numbers, and then text them a message. But it's not a message. It's a question. It's not like, hey, you know, we're killing your mom in about a half hour if we don't get the Bitcoin. Okay. It's, did you get the Bitcoin? We're waiting at this end. At what end? Who, you know, is there an end to this? Is there a front and an end? Is there a beginning and an end? I don't know. Okay. And then make a 9-second phone call that the feds hide in the affidavit.
And still have, well, and let's not forget, they're still concealing the 9/11 call.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we don't, but we don't even was answered or not, right?
Let's go back to Gary's question of why the dry run, and I think to me it's obvious that they had to make a dry run to see if they would be noticed by the camera, by a neighbor, and at that point you only have, at best, you have a trespass. You notice Porch Guy didn't go on the porch that night. He stood, as far as we know, he didn't go on the porch.
Great point.
He stood outside the porch, didn't approach, just approached close enough to be seen by the camera. I believe Porch Guy knew the camera was there, and to see what kind of response, whether that's from Nancy, a neighbor, the police, whether it's captured in the cloud or whatever. So to me, that's pretty obvious.
So like in a day or so, like, hey, there was a stranger at my house. She turns it over to the police. Okay, we're compromised. We got to go back to the drawing board. If it goes unnoticed, then full steam ahead.
Exactly.
But intelligent enough to scope the area out, and then you get there and the camera is on and you have to put flowers in front of it. I mean, wouldn't that be something you would have scoped out and been aware of in advance? It's like one of the first things a person casing a place would look for. I mean, I mean, don't you guys agree? That's very peculiar to scope a place out and then, miss the camera in the front door.
Yeah, but unless they were never planning on going out the front. If they never were planning on going out the front, they wouldn't have been that concerned with that camera. They were concerned with the camera at first, just in case. But then they go, okay, well, now we got to go take that front camera off because we're going out the front door, because she was obviously out the front door at some point.
That's a interesting point, Josh. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
What if the front door is the point of entry?
But then you would have cased the place and known that the camera in the front was going to be a problem.
What if you had a way to get into the front door?
Like a key or something?
Don't take it off the plate. Never take it off the plate.
So let me get this straight. Even if you had a way of getting in, wouldn't somebody have given you a heads up, or wouldn't you have knowledge from scoping the place out that there was going to be a camera there?
Unless you knew the camera wasn't hooked up, or you knew that the camera there was no subscription to it.
Or somebody lied to you and told you it was going to be off.
But, once again, subscription or no subscription, Nancy still could have gotten an alert.
She would have on her phone if it was hooked up to her phone.
Right. And hence the dry run. I don't think it's that complicated. I think it's pretty simple.
Bingo. I agree with
that makes sense, Bob.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And I can't answer for him pulling the weeds out of the thing, other than he signaled to somebody or something down by the street when he went over to do that. He went right over to that corner of the porch in or earshot or eye shot, if you will, of whoever it was that is waiting for him.
It could be as simple as he didn't know that he was going to take it off. So then he was just trying to figure out a way to cover it up or get it off or whatever. The plants didn't stick up there like he thought they would to cover it. So then he decided to rip it off. Also, what
if he's concealing how he's trying to get in?
That too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then he gets frustrated. He rips the camera off and he sticks it in his back pocket or his coat pocket. Bingo. Or shoves it down the backpack, but it's still recording. It's still recording internally because it is a battery operated camera, and the only way you can turn it off is to pull the batteries.
Right here, Chris, let me see. I just want to read this to you. Family could have believed ransom note was real, but still be in denial regarding her passing. Writing to her could help process and heal. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, they could, of course. The family could believe that the ransom note was real, but who in the family believed it is the question for me, because we only know what Savannah has said. We haven't heard from Annie has said, yeah, I believe the note was real too. We haven't heard from Cameron. I believe the note was real as well. Okay. We've only heard from Savannah. So there's been only one narrative to the public about outside of the sheriff. Okay. And the sheriff himself, we know what that kind of problem is. So we don't even have to go there on that conversation. Right. But why hasn't the family stood at the podium and collectively said, we want to tell you about A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Okay. None of that has happened in 5 months, not 5 months. And for me, I would be at this point, if I had a family like this, I would say, you know what? We need to keep your mom alive here and let's get out in the front. Remember what Ed Smart did with Elizabeth after the cop said, don't show that sketch? Remember John Walsh told them, you put that sketch into the public and you get out there on you get out there in front of, I think at that time, Unsolved Mysteries. And you get out there and you put your daughter in the news, period. And guess what he did? Ed Smart stood in the world and said, We are looking for the person that looks like this in the sketch. Okay. And they told it to the world. Okay. And now we hear today that it's possible they knew their mother was deceased, to Gary's point. Well, then what's the whole purpose of walking down the driveway and putting a note to your mom who you already know is deceased? Is this a publicity stunt? What's going on here?
Well,
Something doesn't line
the
up.
element, Chris, to what you're saying is that, and this is a point that has actually been raised by Ann Burgess about this case, which is an interesting one. I hadn't really given it a lot of thought until this second, really. It was an interesting comment, but I hadn't really processed it through. But one of the things she's put out there is the possibility that there's also this kind of side effect of really, really hurting Savannah by making her believe she was responsible. So if the idea is that you believe it's an abduction, there's the second element that Savannah blames herself. So you have this thing of her walking around with a potentially false narrative, right, that there was an abduction for money, and thinking that she had something to do with it. Now, Anne has proposed that that may have been part of the motive to hurt her.
Well, Gary,
That's interesting to think about as an emotional secondary motive or something may have something to do with.
well, I think that's why Savannah, I think that's why Savannah carries the most grief on her, openly with because I think she truly believes that this happened because of her. I think she still believes it to this day, and that she's carrying this burden of wanting to get to the bottom of it. But so when you're suggesting that this was an elimination murder, are you saying that there was no financial aspect at all?
No, it could have been. It's just that it would have required her being eliminated. In other words, I think she was an obstacle to something, whether it was somebody's freedom, whether it was money, whether it was romance, whether it was who the heck knows. But the point is, you have to eliminate an individual and create a fake story. But what's interesting is that if that is a fake story, the same person who supposedly was sensitive enough to say, "We're really sorry your mother died of a heart issue," didn't seem to care that Savannah would walk around blaming herself based on that false narrative. You guys get where I'm going with that? It suggests
where did Savannah get that thought process?
She claimed she said that her brother suggested it remember that Cameron said to her.
I find it fascinating that everything in this case is still in the narrative of the family. Do you think, why do you think this happened, Cameron? Because of you. The cops didn't tell her that. The evidence didn't show that. Nothing showed that. Everything. And if somebody can show me one thing outside of the video, one thing that did not come from the family, just one, I'll wait.
Well, so I don't disagree with you. Everything has been around the family, but from what I understand, that she asked Cameron if this could be because of her, and he responded, "It could be," or something along those lines. I thought the thought came from her.
No, remember
the interview.
What?
He's the one. Yeah, put it up. He's the one that told her right away, "It's a kidnap for ransom."
Even when
remember, everybody went, "What? Where'd that come from?"
But Chris, wasn't it when the police still thought it was a walk away and the hospitals were being checked?
Well, yeah, but we now have the broadcastify where they are saying don't step on the blood or anything like that. I mean, it's pretty obvious they knew something was up. Evident of the fact that you called homicide at 2:00 in the afternoon, by the way. That's the exact time they were called.
Well, I think if there's any confusion about it, just pull the interview. It's the one with Hoda.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't it that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It
Yep.
was.
Yeah, that struck all of us as peculiar that a family member would even, but
Well, how-
we don't know that. Right.
right. And so that was one of the gaps we asked. Okay, what was the question then that generated that? I mean, not from Hoda, but who told him, or did he just all of a sudden, because he's a fighter pilot with an intelligence background, has discovered, the ability to say, yeah, it's a kidnap for ransom and you're at fault.
Yeah, but
Well,
just
you know what I think may have happened? Maybe Cameron, I can't prove this, but maybe Cameron is the other family member in the Kalela affidavit who gets a phone call, who is not identified. Remember, it says, I have to look at the date of when the Kalela thing happens vis-a-vis when that conversation happens with Savannah. But it's because remember, it says there's another family member who gets a phone call.
Mhm.
Let's say if Cameron got the phone call, then wouldn't it make sense that he could say, Savannah, they're trying to get money, and this might have been about you. Is that possible?
I'm going to put money on it that it's Tommaso.
That's
If I was,
the person who got the phone call.
yeah, and they don't want to put his name in there because that's problematic.
So they just say family member,
Right.
right.
and we can't assume it's the same ones who got the text message.
Correct.
Yeah, because that's been very confusing. And I also don't know the timing of when this conversation happens. But anyway, so this is it. I
To
think.
do the right thing.
Mhm.
And to think of what she went through. I wake up every night
Can
in the
you
middle of the
stop a
night.
minute, Josh, just for a second?
Every
Yeah.
Look, I don't want people thinking I'm being cold here, okay? But I'm trying to be objective and standing back and not get caught into the emotion of this thing.
Mhm.
She is speaking for everybody's emotion in the family. We are in agony. We. Not I am in agony. I am suffering. I am in a lot of pain. Because Cameron isn't displaying this kind of agony. We see him sitting there stoic next to her, strong for the family. Yeah, he's probably emotional and suffering internally. Of course he is. That's natural. But she is the one in agony, and she is suffering. And I've said this from the beginning. Savannah is suffering heavily. Okay? But unfortunately, she's answering for the entire family.
Yeah, she's been a
That's
spokesperson.
Well, that's a control mechanism. She's the one getting the phone call from the sheriff, not her sister, not her brother.
But
She's the one that's on the phone with the senator.
right, but
not
she
her
also has the biggest
not her
platform.
brother. Go ahead.
But she also has the biggest platform.
That's the point.
Yeah.
She's controlling the narrative.
night. And in the darkness, I imagine her terror. That she needs to come home now.
Yes.
Oh, man.
I mean,
How are you?
somebody who conversation and also have just direct thoughts about what
Okay, hold on, here it is.
take
And
me
at
back to the
at
day.
that time, she doesn't know. She hasn't gotten the note suggesting the mother is deceased.
Oh, she's already had it.
That's what I'm trying to understand based on when this was filmed.
Was
And
I guess a normal weekend.
remember when they put Cameron out and said, I'm the spokesperson for the family? Remember he stepped up and started to read that note?
Yeah, I
And
remember.
next thing you know, it shifted right back to Savannah. Why was that?
I thought that at one point the sheriff was acting as the spokesperson for the.
Well,
wasn't
he did. Remember, he says, I have notes here from the family. I want to make sure that
Talking
I
points.
correctly. Talking points. He had talking points for the family.
And now he doesn't even talk to him at all.
I actually need to ask you that. From an investigative perspective, have you ever seen a sheriff or a law enforcement figure act as a spokesperson for a family? I don't
No.
remember ever seeing that in my life.
I can't remember.
Never seen it.
Chris, do you remember ever seeing that?
Nope.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. The weekend your mom went missing. Tell me what you were doing and what happened.
Well, I given Mike for Christmas a boys trip to go play tennis, and so he had been gone for the weekend. So I took my kids actually to Carson's. So we had beautiful night together, and then I came home.
Could it be seen almost as like a conflict of interest in a neutral investigation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's totally inappropriate for him to act as the family's spokesperson
Well,
during an investigation. Now, if after trial you get to a sentencing, it could be totally different situation.
Well, if this thing ever gets to trial, he's going to have all sorts of problems.
Yeah, that's a totally different thing, though. I'm just saying that to answer Gary's question, in my opinion, it is totally inappropriate for Nanos to have any talking points or to act as their spokesman. And he needs to be 100% neutral and have his mind focused on the investigation and guiding the investigation. But he's done just the opposite. Hence the Nanos effect.
Well, because I guess what I'm getting is I don't mean to, suggest that anybody's done anything untoward, or I'm not here to judge that. But the thing is, I think that in an investigation, you can't take anybody's word for anything until you've gone and corroborated stories. And so my sense is that generally what you would do is take a totally agnostic approach and not even symbolically side with anybody because it's totally neutral. And that it could suggest almost a conflict of interest where now you've become enmeshed with some person who's involved in some way in the narrative. And isn't that from an? I don't know because
and that's
law enforcement in terms of that.
And that's why it's totally inappropriate.
Right. So it's exactly what I'm saying. It's supposed to be totally agnostic and neutral.
Yep. You just made the case for it. It's totally inappropriate. It's unethical. It's unprofessional, in my opinion. And he did it.
Counterproductive because what he's doing is potentially throwing roadblocks and creating another narrative. I agree with Bob. Absolutely inappropriate.
It's really interesting. Yeah. I guess it suggests that he felt some deep personal compulsion to protect them or to sort of, say something for them.
Or he just wanted to be a gas bag.
You mean that he might want to bask in the public?
I fully believe that this is just my personal thought that he thought that he was going to be the savior, and that they were going to solve it really fast, and he was going to get reelected again, and everybody was going to bow to the great Nanos and all this kind of stuff. And it came around and bit him on his ass.
Or perhaps, Josh, he even thought that this was on his thinking. I'm not suggesting there's any thinking from the family that this was a quid pro quo situation. I'm going to do this, and perhaps in his world, he would have expected something in return.
Josh, can I answer a question from in the comments here? So Kimberly asks, why did it take so long to believe Nanos was a problem? And my answer to that is it didn't take very long for this panel to size Nanos up as a problem, because after the first full week of this investigation, we could see how he's bumbling the interviews. He's giving way too many one-on-one interviews. He's contradicting himself on numerous occasions. And I said this, and several of you echoed the sentiments, he's sucking up all the air in the investigation. And so it took the national media, the national media hasn't really called him a problem, but it took other pundits and other YouTube people to a little longer than it did this this panel to call him a problem. I think we were one of the first, if not the first, to size him up for what he was doing.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I think you guys kind of nailed it on the head with him pretty fast.
And
Go back.
that she's like, I did. And she was in a panic. I was in a panic. I'm like, call 911.
Yeah.
She's like, I did. We've called them. They're here. And we thought
Stop.
that.
And we thought. She's not talking her feelings.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that she's putting this, she's speaking for Annie, her thoughts, her feelings.
Right. She's not telling what was happening with her. I got a phone call from my sister, and as I was talking to her, she said mom was missing, yada, yada, yada. And I thought, holy cow, I better call all the hospitals. No, we already did that. Okay, well, what's going on over there? Well, we thought, so she is putting into motion this thought process that she's in New York getting from Arizona. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's like me saying to you right now, Josh, in California, we're going to go get a hamburger.
I love hamburgers, but I see what you're saying.
And doesn't she also check the hospitals herself?
Yeah, she goes after. Yes, she doubles back.
We both went and got a hamburger, Josh, because you told me you went and got one. When Josh called me, we both had hamburgers.
Which is, yeah, right. You're basically, I'm telling you I had a hamburger, then you say we had a hamburger that night.
Now you're cooking.
But the question is, from where?
Now you're cooking. And that's a gap in the analysis of speech. When we sit across suspects who lie continuously thousands of times in careers, you learn to listen very carefully. And when you're doing an investigation like this, as significant as this is, one of the very first things I've said from the beginning is you got to go back and watch those body camera tapes on the very first things that were said. Because now the anomalies that start to come forward, i.e. the light, the phone, the watch, all of the things, the crime scene's not disturbed, the doors are propped open in the back, the suspect's taking the door down, taking the door off, yada, yada, yada. But then you have to now put yourself in the mind of the suspect driving into that neighborhood. How does this person know that's Nancy Guthrie's house and she's going to be in there? How does that happen? Because it just doesn't happen out of thin air. It doesn't happen. John, does it?
No, I think we were thinking that on the very first night we discussed this, Chris.
You see this one here, look at this statement here. I was in a panic. I'm like, call 911. That is personal to Savannah. She is expressing her personal panic here. But now keep moving and watch listen to the.
Well, she's also expressing an inability to trust her sister.
Yes, I'm like, call 911.
As if her sister couldn't think of this.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, well, and the point is this. if my brother called me up and said, if my mother was still alive, my mother's gone, mother's gone. The last thing I would think with him is to say, well, call 911, because I would assume that that is exactly what he would do. But to make such a fundamental command, and let me preface this by saying, we don't know that this is actually what she said to Annie.
Correct.
Human memory plays games. This phrasing may be what she imagined she said. But even at that, it still reveals some thought that she has some concern that Annie needs to be instructed as to what to do.
And watch, all of a sudden it goes from I.
And that didn't make any sense. We thought maybe they came and there's a stretcher and they took her out the back.
So now she's thinking like Annie, because Annie has told her the back doors are propped open. Anybody else have any other evidence that this didn't come from the family, the narrative?
Nope.
I'd like to hear the evidence from anybody, including the trolls.
Come on, sit down. Sit down.
I mean, it's important that when you're talking to the reporting parties right away, that you listen to the bouncing ball. It's like, Candace, she jumped right up and ran to the house. And within 2 minutes, she changes it to, and I went to fix grandma's knee, but grandma says, well, I was taking a nap.
That was one of the things that stuck out to me the most when Candace was talking, was when she was talking to you, when she just qualified. Well, then she jumped right up like a kid wouldn't just get up and, like it was some sort of miracle that she would do that.
Right. So here we have the doors are propped open. There's a medical event. We think she went to the hospital, and then somehow that got translated to the police to where she's a walk away. She's telling her sister, we've got all these things, these anomalies that don't look right. Mom's gone. She's missing. We think that's a medical event. The doors are propped open, and the cops get there and they're going, what do you mean it's a walk away? And so then they go into search mode. I'll guarantee you those body cameras are going to be really interesting.
When law enforcement comes to a home where somebody's missing, how many minutes does it take for them to determine that EMS never came to the house and the person was never brought to a house? Like, what does that take? 5 minutes? 10 minutes?
Probably not even that. If they've got a CAD system, they could just radio and say, now, if you were going to include private ambulances, maybe 5 minutes. I don't know how many private ambulance companies you might have in the Tucson, Pima County region. But if it was a fire department or rescue squad agency, you could know in seconds because they could pull it up on the CAD system.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And anyone who's ever lived for 2 seconds in a suburb knows that if there's an ambulance outside in the middle of the night with the siren or the lights going, everybody sticks their head out the window and sees it and goes outside and folds their arms and watches all night long, like spectator sport. And the thing is, nothing like that happened. Nobody went outside because they saw ambulance lights or became concerned or anything like that. The ambulance, you know what I'm saying? They don't exactly hide that they're coming. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying, like, there isn't the slightest hint of that happening, and it sounds like law enforcement could rapidly determine. So why was there that sense that it was a walkaway for so long? Why wasn't that rapidly eliminated as an idea?
Well, we don't know that among law enforcement it was. It could have been with a law enforcement response. They may have discarded that very rapidly.
Well, this is what I'm trying to understand. That wouldn't law enforcement have very rapidly have said, no, she didn't walk away.
Well, they impounded.
That doesn't mean that Savannah would necessarily agree with that conclusion.
Hey, guess what? You're
Yeah.
not driving home. Why is that? Because we're taking your car.
Yeah. The thing is that we're
I need
relying on
1185 here, please.
yeah, we're relying on statements that she's regurgitating days after the fact. We don't know actually what was said.
Well, this is what I'm getting at. We only have a narrative that isn't coming from law enforcement.
Yeah, it's coming from the family, to Chris's point. Everything is coming from the family. Yeah.
Right. Which I think implies that it can't be put into the syllogism.
Somebody screenshot that.
I just think if we only went with individually, how do we say it, independently corroborated information, what would we know?
Nothing.
I think we would only have up until she gets to the son-in-law and daughter's house. For
Well,
whatever
we would know that
Night.
Derek Colella got arrested.
Yep.
All right. It's just very puzzling.
It's actually pronounced. How's it pronounced, Bob?
Colella.
How's what about, how do you say it, John?
Colella.
I thought you say it a little different than that.
Well, I have said it in a funny way.
Yeah, that's my favorite way.
Well, but I thought probably it was inappropriate at this moment since I do have moments of decorum, Josh. Okay.
Very few, but he does have his moments.
And I can't argue with that. But I thought in this instance, when we're digging deeply into this,
Yeah.
probably going for the cheap laugh of mispronouncing his name.
Yeah.
Nah, pick your moments.
Maybe later.
But her phone was there and her purse was there and all her things. And it just didn't make any sense. So, and disbelief.
It's interesting that she said it didn't make sense. You guys remember, of course you remember Judge Judy on television, the sort of the diminutive, hot-headed judge that was always screaming at everybody and bashing the gavel. Well, she had this rule: if it doesn't make sense, it isn't true. Well, I think she's right. When things don't add up, they just don't have the ring of truth. It suggests somebody giving you a narrative that isn't accurate. And you guys know what I mean? The truth has a way of sounding like the truth. And, I think it's interesting that it just doesn't add up. Do you guys think that story would have struck all of you as not making sense if you were told it? Or would you say I'm just missing some information?
It wouldn't
make a lot of sense.
I think it doesn't make sense on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Even on a common sense level, it doesn't make sense.
Within hours, Savannah was making the long journey home to Tucson. You saw Annie and Cam when you got to their house. Tell me about that moment.
Just disbelief and hugging each other. Yeah. And I think we were on the phone with the sheriff and trying to, really make clear from the very early moments, Annie and Tommy were saying this isn't that case that you are used to where someone wanders off. She can't wander off. Mm-hmm. My mom, she was in tremendous pain. Yeah. Her back was very bad. Something is very wrong here.
Yeah.
So hold on. Somehow I didn't fully grasp this until this minute. So is she saying, just to be clear, that they insisted to law enforcement, you're barking up the wrong tree. This is not a walk away. She couldn't have walked away. There's something else happened here. So the family tells law enforcement to interpret it that way because there's blood on the porch and this, that, and the other thing. That's very interesting. I hadn't realized that.
Yeah, they were the ones.
Yeah, that's what she's saying.
Yeah. Yeah. They're the ones that saying this isn't a walk away. This isn't your normal type of case.
So law enforcement thinks it's a walk away even though there's blood on the porch? And the family tells them that it's not a walk away? I don't get it. I mean, unless they thought that she walked away and fell and hurt herself or something, I don't see how that wouldn't point you in the direction of something more nefarious. But Chris, what are you thinking?
You know, it's
Sometimes you make this impish face, and I know you're having a thought you're holding in.
Matthew 12:37. That's what I'm thinking. By every word.
And homicide was called it too.
You guys talk about what possibly could have happened, like what could have happened, what went down? Did you?
I think my brother, I mean, my siblings are so amazing. My brother, you know, he spent his career in the military and worked in intelligence. And
somebody say something.
How did he get that clarity?
Well, how does military intelligence apply to a criminal investigation?
The cops didn't even see what it was. And they're on the scene.
Well, to be fair.
Well, what's to be fair about it? Honestly.
Well, I'm talking about the cops not knowing, you know.
They're already on the radio saying, don't step in the blood.
And get homicide over here.
So, you know, they're not thinking it's a ransom, kidnapping for ransom. They're thinking they've got an 84-year-old woman with blood on the porch and she's missing out of the house. That's what they're thinking. How does that jump from a kidnap for ransom on the phone to a family member?
I mean, yeah, that's a great question. But at what point, you know, does it go from, well, we think that this is a walk away to, okay, let's get homicide on the phone? Because if you guys showed up to a scene and you saw, you know, basically not a lot of disturbance, but the mother is missing. And then you go, well, she could have walked away. Like she could have had an episode and wandered out into the wilderness or something. And then you see blood on the front porch. Wouldn't that change everything for you?
I think that if it was designed to give the impression that somebody was abducted, it gave the impression that somebody was abducted. I think the whole thing was set up to give that impression. But that somebody would go, she was taken away, but you know, and it wasn't for medical reasons. She was there because the whole point was to give the impression. Whoever staged it up.
But according to Savannah, that's not what happened at first.
I understand.
Well, Savannah wasn't present. So why would we accept Savannah's assessment of what was happening there?
She's the only one talking.
Well, that's all right. I could begin talking about something that is happening in your neck of the woods. Would that make it real, Josh?
Well, I know. We got a hamburger together. I remember.
Yeah. And I tell you what, I wish I could get a hamburger back in California. Like to get an In-N-Out burger. But
yeah, they're pretty good.
But the point is that this interview has no real investigative value. For starters, it was done for ratings and to give people the opportunity to watch it and to sell things, you know, for commercials. And I'm sorry if that sounds cold, and I'm sorry if that sounds as if I have a ruthless temperament, but this wasn't done for the purpose of relaying meaningful and accurate information to the viewers. So I'm certain she's a wonderful lady, and I'm speculating, but nothing that she's saying here means that it actually occurred. There's no proof.
You're right about that. Yes.
Yeah. And then you add in all of Hoda's facial expressions
Oh,
and
God.
grunts and all of that nonsense.
Ought to be
And it
prohibited by the Geneva Convention.
it
Send her
just-
down to Guantanamo. She'd be getting confessions.
Now's the
Yeah.
time for the cheap laugh, John.
just
What's
makes
that?
it all for show. Yeah.
Now's the time for the cheap laugh.
Now is the time for the cheap laughs. Next time around, I'll get the glasses and the fake nose and the mustache, like a certain officer Bob Gilliam wore. And when I can find that picture taken in 1983, I will share it.
I mean, we still don't know.
Mhm.
Honestly, we don't know anything.
No.
We don't know anything. So I don't know
Yeah.
that it's because that would make sense, but we don't know. But yeah, that's probably, which is too much to bear.
Incidentally,
To
it's
think-
very interesting to me that Savannah, in her projection of what occurred, thinks it was a we who did it, not an I.
Would any of you say that to your sister, by the way?
Well, that's a whole other. But just to
Just
drive
saying.
the point home I'm making, she thinks it's more than one offender.
I would not say. I would not say that. By the way,
Yeah,
Here's
even
the
if I thought it, you're feeling bad already. Mom is gone, and let's load a little guilt onto your shoulders.
I would be like, absolutely not. This is not.
Well, if this kidnapping is a cover story, this is what I'm trying to say. The person doesn't give a damn that this poor woman thinks that she had something to do with the reason it was done, which implies a personal, could imply, as Ann Burgess is suggesting, some personal kind of resentment of this poor woman, and not caring about that, and that's interesting. But Chris, did you get where I'm going with the point about that she assumes it's a we?
Well, yeah, but here's the ultimate, the sentence that counts. It's right in front of us, but we don't know. She said it like 5 times back to back, but
Right.
we don't know. Her brother tells her, you're at fault because you're rich and famous, but we don't know. But we don't know. But we don't know. Okay, then what do you know? And who gave you that knowledge that you would even imply other than another family member?
Well, if we could deduce what it is that Savannah might believe happened here, based on this interview and the time, at least at the time this interview was done, she seems to think that a we, not an individual, but more than one person, went in the middle of the night and abducted this woman, without her shoes, without whatever, and took her out of the home with the purpose of wringing money potentially out of Savannah, or at least thinking that because Savannah was a family member, there was going to be money present, and that was ultimately what happened. And then the letter comes that says that she died, and then the narrative changes to, well, they tried to do that, but she died, and we're sorry, and now she's with nature. So what it sounds like, if we put the interviews together, it suggests that her belief is that was what happened.
Yeah.
And right.
And so now let's have a paradigm shift.
Okay.
Okay, let's think out of the box. And Josh, you can take this off here for just 30 seconds.
take it down
Okay.
longer.
You're sitting around a table just like this with your partner in crime. You're going to plan this out. Okay, what do we got? Well, we got a rich woman who is on the Today Show named Savannah Guthrie. Do you know her? Anybody know her? Oh, okay. You know what I mean? No. Well, yeah, I kind of know her. Well, how do you know her? Well, because I watched this special where she and her mom went to El Charro restaurant, and her sister was there, and it looked like the whole family's rich. Okay, perfect. Let's go. Let's put a plan together. Okay, what do you think we should do? Well, first of all, we're going to need a car. Okay, we're going to need clothing. We're going to need a cover story. We're going to need a date and a time. Okay, we got to know where all the cameras are. We got to know, how to write some notes. What are we going to get cash? No, let's get Bitcoin. Who knows Bitcoin? Anybody here know Bitcoin? Okay, John, you know Bitcoin. Okay, you got the Bitcoin run here. Okay. Who's available? Josh, are you available to go up on the porch? Okay, you're going to need somebody with you, so take Bob. Okay, I'll drive the car. Okay. And before we do any of this, I'm going to go into that neighborhood. Where does she live, by the way? Where's this lady live? Well, first of all, let me ask, is her mother alive? Yeah, she's 84 and she lives at this house. Okay, perfect. That's perfect. What's the plan? Let's go take her at 2:00 in the morning. And let's take her out, hold her for ransom, send a couple of notes to the local news stations. Okay. Get them to respond, and then we'll hit them with a Bitcoin wallet that's untraceable. Perfect. Sounds like a wrench attack. Awesome. Let's put it into motion. Okay. Everybody ready? Okay. Before we do that, guys, I have to go out there like 2 or 3 times at least and surveil the neighborhood.
Right.
That means I got to drive in and out of there. Are we going to need other cars? I don't know. Maybe we need multiple cars so that they don't catch my car. John, can I use your car? Yep. Okay. Bob, can I use yours for the second one or the third one? John, or Gary, blah, blah, blah. Everybody gets the point here. Okay. Okay. I got all these cars, and I'm going to keep going back. And one night I'm going to go back and get a picture with my partner who's not wearing the gun. Okay. And the backpack. Oh, by the way, I got to go to Walmart and buy the backpacks. I got to get the clothing. I got to put the gloves on. I got to put the gun. I got to get a gun. Do you got a gun? Anybody got a gun? Okay. And then I got to get a holster. I get a holster. Hey, John, how do I hold this gun? What am I supposed to do? Oh, just slide it in the front and put it there. Perfect. I can do that. Anybody got gloves? Yeah, I got gloves. I go cut fish, at the local Walmart, or I'm in the meat department.
You sound like Fredo in The Godfather. I'm smart. I do things.
Okay. How about the spandex suit underneath it? Multiple clothes. Okay, I need a face mask. Okay, great. How many face masks do we need? Who needs a mask? You need a mask. You need a mask. You need a mask. Okay, everybody's got masks. Okay, everybody in the car. We're driving over there. Remember, we forget that they came together. If this is the scenario, everybody's in the car. Frank, I'm going to drop you off here. Keep an eye on the street. Bob, I'm going to drop you off on the porch. Okay. And I'm going to park up the street so nobody knows, recognizes, sees anything, doesn't even hear the car. I'm just going to go ahead and park it up the street. Don't worry about it. Okay. We're good to go. All right. And action. When we get there, the first thing I'm going to do is go around the back, open the gate, okay, and I'm going to break the spotlight next to the garage. They're just going to bust it. Nobody's going to hear it. Nobody's going to know any different. I'm just going to tear it down. And then I'm going to go around the front of the house potentially, okay, and I'm going to all of a sudden discover, oh my gosh, there's a camera here. So I'm going to grab some weeds. And I'm going to take those weeds and I'm going to put them on the camera, and I'm going to tear that camera off. Okay. Because the internet has me tearing it off with the weeds. And I'm going to put it in my pocket, but then I'm going to go around the house and I'm going to make entry into that house, but I'm not going to break any doors. I'm not going to break any windows. And when I leave, I'm going to prop the doors open. Or even before I leave, I'm going to prop the back doors open so I can go out the front door. Okay.
Because the window isn't available.
Window's not available. Okay. So I'm going to prop the back door open and I'm going to go in. I'm going to shock her at, whatever. I'm going to spend 31 minutes in the house approximately, maybe a little bit longer. I don't know. You guys hang outside so nobody sees you at 2:30 in the morning. Make sure nobody sees you. Park the car somewhere. Okay. So that if a cop drives by or if, whoever drives by, make sure you're not seen by anybody. Turn your lights off. Okay. And then the next morning, we'll make sure that we send a note to the family that says, we got your mom. Okay. She's still alive, but we want a payment plan of $4, $6, or $8 million, depends on what day of the week you pass. And by the way, we're not going to send it to you, the family. We're going to send it to the news station. And just for kicks, we're going to send one to TMZ.
And you can do it on the layaway, Chris, because kidnappers allow you to pay on the layaway.
Well, when you put it that way, it does sound ridiculous.
Well, that's what investigators should do. Put it that way so it either makes sense or it doesn't make sense. The goal here is to exonerate everybody. Exculpatory evidence is what defense attorneys will do. You have to think like a defense attorney. Okay. And so far, the story that the state's going to tell, okay, a defense attorney is going to go, you know what, you got some problems, man. Why? Because they got this bouncing ball here, okay, that doesn't make any sense. And now let's add the next dynamic. Hi. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to tell you, we talked with Nancy's girlfriends. You'll hear it. That's a spoiler alert. Okay.
When are you playing that?
That's going to be not tomorrow night, but the next episode. Remember, I told you it's deeper than this? I don't mess around. You know me. Okay. Now, here's going to be a really interesting point. Okay. Hey, yeah, your mom's not here. Okay. We're 2.9 miles away from the house. We're on our way. Okay. Hey, the back door's open. Hey, this is open. Hey, what is this? Where's mom? Her watch, her thing, or whatever. Okay, well, let's look around for her. Let's run around the house. Let's run outside. Let's go outside, but let's not go out the front door. And let's look around and see what's going on out there. Okay. 911, what's the emergency? Hi, mom's not here. She didn't go to church. We got a deputy en route. Within 15 minutes, that deputy's on the scene. Okay. Now, does that make sense? And the first thing the deputy pulls up and he goes, so let me get this right. What happened? Well, mom didn't show up this morning for church. Okay. And then what happened? Well, we got a phone call from her girlfriends that said mom didn't come to church this morning. Okay. And then what happened? Well, the back door was propped open. And then what happened? You see how this kind of unfolds? And then the first press conference or the sheriff shows up and he goes, what the heck's going on here? Over. Well, it's the family and blah, 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 blah. And he's going, okay, yeah, sure. No problem. Well, let me call Savannah. Actually, her security team calls him. Okay. Where's mom? I talked to my sister. Everybody, blah, blah, blah. Calling the hospitals, all this stuff. DLR does not look right, doesn't feel right, doesn't sound right. All of these other things add into the column of, okay, well, how do we take them off the plate so we can do some police work and catch the perpetrator? How do we do this? Okay. Instead, you see everything starts to take a right turn. But which way does it go? Well, it goes 2.9 miles towards a house. But whose house? The reporting party. No kidding. And then within 0.5 miles or a 2-minute drive, there's a Circle K from house number 2 to the Circle K. And in that Circle K is an ATM machine. Now, I wasn't able to press it to see if it would take or allow you to collect out of a wallet there. But guess what? I went in and I talked to the clerk. I haven't released that either.
You talked to the clerk at the Circle K that has the Bitcoin terminal.
I went to Tucson for 7 days under the radar. As they say, when you join a company, I need a stapler. Go downstairs and see Mr. Lee. And he opens the door and he goes, supplies.
I like that.
So there's a lot more to the story. Okay. That, you know, when I walked into the clerk, she had this ghost look on her face. I said, hey, I have a quick question. Can you tell me if the law enforcement authorities were in here and took some video? Because I noticed right here as you walk into the store, and that's the first thing we started with last night. When you walk into that Circle K, there's a huge video monitor that you can see yourself coming in. You guys all know those. You've seen them. Okay. Well, guess what? There's tape.
Usually I see myself on that walking out with a big hot dog.
Right. And are they looking for a car? Are they looking for a person? Are they seeing somebody at the machine? I don't know. I did not get that answer. But I'll tell you what, that clerk looked like Casper when we were done. Okay. And John knows me. John knows
people get pale when they talk with you, Chris. Let's be fair about this.
Yeah, no, that's true statement. And which led me down to the park. And I started pumping sources and information. And next thing you know it, which was video 1 so far, everybody's going, hey, see if you can find a connection. Okie dokie. And so I hung out with Home Fries and all the other fentanyl dealers.
Home Fries. That's my favorite nickname that you have. So
I think Porch Guy was involved with drugs.
Well,
Yeah.
I was looking for your waiter, Gary. That's what I was doing.
But I'm
I've
getting
been
at.
looking for the waiter.
That's what I told Brian Enton when I did the special with Ann and Casey Jordan, with Ann Burgess, Casey Jordan. I said that whoever this is, whatever money he might have gotten for it or whatever, you got to go to the demi-monde and you got to go to the world of drugs and that's where you're going to find that type.
What a great word, demi-monde.
And you know what I discovered?
Yeah.
The Nanos has dismantled the direct patrols, which is an equivalent to what they call the Bravo units in Tucson Police Department. Okay. And the Bravo units, basically, Bob and John will know what I'm talking about, are equivalents to crash teams. Okay. They're specialized units like SES, and they used to have them in Pima County Sheriff's Department. Nanos disbanded every single one of them because they weren't his players.
Because they opposed him in the election?
They're gone. They're no longer, okay, no longer playing the game over there.
Well, and the other thing is that they're street enforcement teams, and he dances to the tune of what other people want. And if it was perceived by some politicians that these officers or these deputies were engaging in aggressive enforcement, and aggressive does not mean illegal, he might have shut them down.
Yeah. And so exactly, John, that's exactly right. And when you start thinking about, what the priorities are for the community, okay, it seems like fentanyl and all this other stuff seem to be higher priorities than, protecting 84-year-old women in their houses while they're sleeping. And so I started pounding the pavement and started thinking through this idea of, well, why would this be happening? What's the connection point here? And lo and behold, I come across Annie's shop, right in the combat zone. And I thought, what are the odds? What are the odds?
Did it really close?
I don't think so. Not yet. They still have an event planned on the 7th.
Because right here it says, I find it interesting that since Chris is live, nonprofits close its doors, likely avoiding something. But they do have an event planned.
I don't know if they went through a transition during just after COVID, because that whole park used to be an entire like homeless encampment, and it's behind the park along the railroad tracks. There's like a 15, 20 foot gap where all of these transients live. It was like behind the drive-in, behind the Oceanside drive-in, John.
Oh, God.
Okay. All of that area down there in this park is just loaded with needles and meth bags and pipes and just
broken glass pipes. And
there was a YouTuber out there this morning. I think his name is AJ. He's a great guy. He was out there this morning, and there's a guy setting up a Narcan table in the park. Okay.
Wow.
And I told him, you got to go
go.
watch the video. He did a live stream this morning, and he said, I saw in the interview room that we should be down here hitting the pavement. And that's exactly what I thought would happen. Now they need to be careful because it's a very dangerous area down there. And, I told them straight up, I said, look, you go down in the buddy system, do not go down there and say you're looking for a guy. Just say, hey, have you seen this guy? He may have taken an 84-year-old woman. That's how you deliver it. It's real simple, and hand him a bottle of water.
Like the old joke about Sicily. You don't, the old certain parts of Sicily, you don't go there to find somebody, you go there to lose somebody.
Yeah, exactly. But, and that's, where I defended the streamers that were out in front of Nancy's house, because Nanos is more concerned about them than he is about hitting the streets and getting information about the waiter. And it was really frustrating, because then we contacted Tucson PD, and I asked their Bravo teams. I literally got an email back, and I talked to them. No, we're not. They never asked us to do anything. I said, wait a minute, let me get this right. Nanos told us in the very beginning, him and the Tucson sheriff, or the Tucson police chief, and he said this publicly, got phone calls. And Kelly said it too. And you guys your agency offered all the help they could. Yep, that's correct. That did happen. Okay, well, since that time, what has happened? Nothing. You mean to tell me you guys have street teams that can go down here and pound this pavement down here? Yeah. And the Pima County Sheriff's Department hasn't sent a couple of their guys to team up with your guys to go down and pound the pavement? No, sir. Wow. Thank you very much. Can you put that in writing? Absolutely. I'll send you an email. I have the email. And for those that are going to doubt it, I'm going to checkmate you. I'm going to put it on Twitter tomorrow.
But wait, Chris, are you suggesting that whoever recruited the waiter went into a setting that would be enriched for the types of people that would be eager to do that, or had a more intimate connection with this person? In other words, are you saying like they're like, okay, we need someone to do the deed. Let's go into this sort of den of iniquity, this wretched hive of scum and villainy, like Alec Guinness says in Star Wars.
Scum and villainy.
Right, remember, you'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. The idea that's exactly how he says it. And in Mos Eisley Cantina, right? So is the idea that he goes into it to find someone, or is it that for some reason or another there had been previous interaction, you think, between somebody of that type and whoever the chef is?
Well, I look at it like this. There's a shop there, a store, and it belongs to Annie Guthrie. It's her workshop. That's where she makes jewelry. And part of that jewelry sales supports the Splinter Coalition. Okay. she gives a percentage of her jewelry sales to the Splinter Coalition. Now, who's in that organization in terms of access point to Annie, hypothetically? Okay. Well, guess what? Parolees, your dad, Josh, when he gets out of prison.
Yeah.
It's a transition. They work with transitional prisoners coming out of prison.
Great.
Okay. They have free reign to walk all over that area into the organization. They get water, they get jobs. They sit there, they help them fill out, applications. They do all the stuff. Okay. Well, okay. Well, guess what? I'm looking for a contact point. How does this contact point? Now, what do we know what happens from there? I have no idea. Have they ever seen Savannah? Have they ever heard Annie talk about her famous sister? I don't know. I have no idea. I find it really interesting that the type of people you described, Gary, and that we described as a panel just happens to be in the same building that Annie has her workshop in.
Well, and if that wasn't enough, as we know what we know about jewelry stores, Chris.
Yeah, John, tell them. Yeah, tell them.
And again, I want to make this clear that I am not speaking specifically about the jewelry shop there in Pima County. But when I was a detective sergeant running the property crime unit, jewelry stores tend to attract people that want to sell jewelry. And some jewelry stores don't ask how they obtained the jewelry to sell. And in fact, we put together a sting operation and got several controlled buys into this business and came back and arrested the owner and his wife. And before we had gotten back to the police station, the mayor and city council's phones were ringing off the hooks back in days when phones were on hooks, with jewelry store owners in our city complaining that the police were entrapping people, which certainly wasn't the case. But jewelry stores pick up people that come in to sell stuff, and it would be certainly conceivable that bad people would go into the shop. It doesn't mean that anybody working in the shop or owning the shop is bad, but that's another area that an area that you wouldn't expect, but crooks go into jewelry stores.
Yeah, and if you're getting out of prison and you're hanging out, or if you're a crackhead or a fentanyl, or you need water or whatever, and you're marginalized, and across the street is a Salvation Army, down the street is a soup kitchen. It's like Brother Benno's on steroids, by the way. That whole area. I mean, how many times in our cities did we used to go to these areas and walk into the soup kitchen and hand them a flyer and say, I'm looking for this dude. If he shows up, call me. Right or wrong?
Absolutely.
And guess what? Pima County Sheriff has done none of that. Absolutely zero.
And
But go ahead.
That's my question. That's why I did it.
Make a lick of sense. It makes so little sense you can't even intelligently speculate on that.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You're there that day, the very first day. Homicide's there. What's one of the first questions we're going to ask Annie? Where do you work? Well, I have a little jewelry store down at the Splinter Collection or whatever it's called. Okay, where's that? 901 13th Street in Tucson.
And flares should then go up in the air among the deputies.
Has your mom ever been there? Do you have any enemies down there? Has anybody ever threatened you or your mom or anything like that while you were at work? And you wait for those answers. Okay. And then from there, you hand it off to a team member and say, tell me everything about this place of employment for the daughter of the victim who's missing. It's police work 101. It's police work 101. And then you get that flyer of porch guy, you get the picture, and you walk down and you take 4 or 5 guys and you canvass that entire neighborhood, park, etc. And you tell every single one of these guys down there, hey, there's $1 million on the line. You get on the phone, you call SES, or you call the Bravo team in Tucson PD, and you say, hey, can we have a briefing? We're looking for a homicide suspect potentially. Roger that. Okay, 1300 tomorrow, I'll be over there with flyers. And you show up and you brief their Bravo team. Go out, and I need you to pinch every single one of your CIs. I need your dope dealers. I want everything. I want to know shoe sizes. I want to know height, weight, hats, clothing. By the way, here's a picture of the backpack that we're looking for. Okay. If you find a guy with this backpack, call me.
Another thing you're going to do is put the word out in the jail system. And,
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
And who knows whether they did that in this case, but I would certainly hope so, because Nanos runs the jail. But, we know that he's not with it. So,
Gary, I remember you talking about that as well. That and Chris, I've heard you talk about that as well. That those are the guys you're going to want to talk to, and
say that from the start. Talk to
the
the demi-monde, talk to the drug addicts, and the drug addicted people. Talk to the people in the jails, because even with a mask on, you would recognize a person's gait.
Right.
Somebody has seen this guy that is in one of those circles. I would bet my life.
But $1 million reward, and nobody has said anything.
Well, that tells us a lot.
That tells you a lot. I agree with you.
That tells you a lot.
Because, and it's not just looking for a porch guy. You're looking for information. Because these crooks talk on the street, they talk in the jails. A jail, you're only there for 364 days. And so there's constant movement in and out of the jail. And they talk like there's no tomorrow. They gossip and they spread information. And that's a great place to get intel.
And the way you do it, Josh, if you were a patrol guy, let's say you're a uniform, is, you find PC to talk to somebody, you pat them down, you find a glass crack pipe in their pocket, you reach, you get the pipe out, and then you look at them and you hold the crack pipe right in front of them and say, we got a problem. What's that? And then you drop it and you have them step on it and crush it. And you say, you owe me. I'm looking for a guy who kidnapped an 84-year-old woman. There's $1 million on the ground. I'll remember the fact that, you're going to help me. And you remember the fact that I just helped you. Have a good night.
Denzel Washington did that in Training Day. He would tell everybody, you want to go to jail or you want to go home.
Well,
that's the way it's done, man.
John, tell him Mappa versus Ohio.
Map versus Ohio, I need to lay this out. First of all, there's prehistoric case law that says basically allows a police officer to frisk somebody for weapons. And you stop people, then you shake them down. I stopped some guy in a carport at 3 a.m, and of course he was waiting there for a friend he couldn't name. And I told him I was going to pat him down for weapons. And he said I couldn't do that because so many of the people we contact at 3 a.m. on city streets are constitutional scholars. And I said, well, actually I can, because, so-and-so, if it was so-and-so, I said, but in the case of Mapp versus Ohio, I can do this. And I said, you are acquainted with that case law decision of Mapp versus Ohio. And the guy looked at me over his shoulder as I had him up against the wall, and he said, Map? I haven't got a map, and I haven't got a map of Ohio. And it actually happened. But what he did have was a screwdriver in his pocket, and he was out there doing car clouds, which are car burglaries. But this is how you get information. I have had people that I've stopped or contacted in motel rooms and to find a bundle of methamphetamine or cocaine. We can flush it, and you can tell me where this guy is, or you can go to jail. I'm easy either way, and I don't see a lot of that cop work being done, and there's nothing illegal about it. So
That's interesting.
It's domino effect. You roll them into bigger things, and you'll be surprised how many times you'll get a phone call, or another officer will get your guy, the dude you just gave a favor to, and he says, "Hey man, I want to talk to Lamb."
Mm-hmm.
Why? Just get Lamb over here. I don't want to talk to you.
And you've got to be willing, and we talked about this with Koberger, you've got to be willing to get out of your bed at 3 a.m. and go down and talk to that person. And I'm afraid that's a form of old-fashioned cop work that is going extinct.
Well,
yeah, that's not waiting for DNA to come back. Go ahead,
John. I'm gonna cut you loose because you got things to do. But tell everybody where to get your book. We're gonna answer a few questions and then we're gonna wrap it up here.
Yeah, and I apologize to your fans who are watching, but Andy is having a fit, and I've got to figure out what it is. Maybe it's just he wants to go to bed, or
all of our animals have major issues.
Well, this is the thing. Maybe he just wants some single malt scotch. I don't know. We'll find out. And if I pour some for him and he doesn't have it, it won't go to waste.
That's fact.
My books are available on Amazon. And one of your people wanted, one of your viewers wanted to know if I wrote the teddy bear mysteries. Yes, I did. And those are available on Amazon. The books I have out now are called Service with a Sneer, which is the first in my memoirs. The second one is Beach Blanket Bedlam. I'm hoping that by the beginning of next month, the next book covering my time in homicide will come out, and that's called Bring Out Your Dead. And so I appreciate everybody who's purchased the books, and these books contain a lot of true crime stuff, but also the humor that sometimes Josh forces me to share.
Form like
Yeah.
an 8 fez.
How do you say that last name again?
Kalala. Kalala. And on that note, thank you all. Have a good night.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to tip your waitress.
Oh, that's too good. Okay, let me get some of these questions out and then we'll get out of here. If you have cameras on an 84-year-old woman's house, wouldn't you assume all the kids have it on their phones? I personally would, not all of them, but I think you would think that it would be connected to the caretakers. Yes, absolutely. That specifically, I specifically got Ring doorbell cameras, more of them because of this case, for like when I'm not home, so I could keep an eye on like the back, the side of the house as well, because old ladies being at home alone is not always a great idea, but it happens, so, or old gentlemen, or younger kids, just
it's especially an 84-year-old woman living in a large home by herself that has a heart condition and mobility issues. You would definitely, yeah.
My brother wouldn't candy coat it if we were trying to figure out the truth. Yeah, but I know what you're saying here, but I personally I'm just saying this just for me. I don't think that would be the time to try to confirm somebody's worst fear, but that's just me. I'm not casting aspersions. I personally wouldn't say it. Thanks for a validating conversation. On a different note, anyone find it odd that L's car broke down in the driveway, wasn't impounded, but his Rolls Royce or Range Rover, excuse me, he didn't have a Rolls Royce. What if this was the actual getaway car? I don't know. I don't.
I heard it's a tip that came into the FBI about him because he was a controversial
figure.
Competition.
Got it. Okay. Does anyone think so? So is he out?
They let him go. They let him.
He's cut.
Yeah, there was kind of a, selling candy.
Got it. I see.
And there was a tip that went to the FBI that turned him on to him.
Still be interesting to see those search warrants or those probable cause affidavits as well. Does anyone think her brother Cam meant from being in intelligence it's because of who Savannah is married to, not due to Savannah's fame in itself? Savannah's more famous than her husband, and I don't think it's really that close. I mean, that's at least that's what I think personally. Does Kalala have a solid alibi? We're going to find out, huh?
It's a great question.
We'll find out soon.
Great comment.
Yeah. I don't know. Hey, by the way, Bob, do you think that that's going to be sealed? Like do you think that they're going to disclose any of that information?
Well, I read in the comments that the reason the hearing was postponed today is because he is doing a change of plea. So in the federal system, there has to be a separate change of plea hearing. Okay, so it's probably a magistrate judge that will be taking this change of plea from him, and takes about 30 minutes. And then it's doubtful that we're going to see anything beyond that on that day. It'll probably be 30 days or so after the change of plea hearing that we'll see a sentencing. So he's going to plead guilty on whenever it was, the second, or I don't remember the date.
I wonder why he did that.
If that's what he's doing, he didn't plead guilty originally, so it's got to be a change of plea from not guilty to guilty. And who knows? I mean, there could be a myriad of different things. We could speculate, but that's all it would be. We don't know.
A deal is possible.
It's possible. Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
Hey, look, we got all this evidence against you. You're not beating this one, but if you help us out, we can work something out, maybe.
Yeah, and then why would the U.S. Attorney's Office offer him a deal at this point for some kind of information, right? So,
sure. Absolutely,
yeah,
great point.
And such a high profile,
huge, yeah. Did Nancy have any issues with Tommaso? They're going to have to get down to the nitty gritty with all of Nancy's relationships. Her journal will help. Well, like I said, we've talked about this before. We don't know the dynamics. The dynamics are not public, so we can't really speculate. But Dr. Gary's talked about that journal, haven't you? And it would be very interesting to go through it. And I'm sure that they probably have. I mean, I don't know. I would assume. Let me see. What if all that was staged? The early walk by and the porch, the verbiage, and the second random and card left, I guess ransom, left by Annie Guthrie are eerily similar. What if it was all staged? Well, Dr. Gary, that's one of Dr. Gary's thoughts, is that the whole thing could be staged, possibly.
Yeah, but one of the things I want to clarify for us, because we all talked about this on the panel, and I'm not going to speak for Dr. Gary, but I think Nancy Guthrie was taken out that front door. And I think she was injured when she was taken out that front door because of the aspiration, because of the blood patterns, etc.
Right.
Okay. I think the blood evidence is clear.
Mhm.
Now, after that, okay, there's some problems, a lot of problems. And I'm with Dr. Gary 1,000% that there is, issues here that we're not talking about, because of this. There's this fear for some reason of if you say anything about, anything like that, well, then, automatically you're put into a bucket over here. But let me make this very clear, and I'm going to say this very clearly. Sheriff Nanos made the decision on his own to tell the public about the family being cleared. The investigators had no idea that was coming. Absolutely zero. Notice the FBI hasn't said it.
So why would he do that, though? It just makes no sense.
That's a great question, Josh.
Thank you.
But I can guarantee you they blew a gasket.
Mhm.
Just like I ended up down at the park, I can assure you they blew a gasket. None of them knew it was coming. So we'll just leave that there, whatever that means. Okay. That's what happened.
Moron. It's crazy.
But
Go ahead.
just to be clear, when we've all talked about staging, first of all, it's important to understand that we have only posed that as something that can't be taken off the table.
Right.
Right.
Most probable thing is that she was taken from the home and bled and aspirated there, and the whole thing. Whether she was alive or deceased is a matter of some conjecture. But it cannot be taken off the table. Technically speaking, we cannot remove from the circle of possibility that she never even got back to the house, and that everything, including the blood drop, was staged. Because there are cases where there's even more sophisticated staging than that. The second point is that the staging can occur at various levels. You could have a situation, for example, where the staging was simply tidying up after to give a different impression, right? Or, sending a note that says, oh, we're really sorry she passed away abruptly from a heart condition and we didn't expect that. That's a kind of staging to give a false impression. In other words, there's all different levels at which you're going to, and I have to say, I don't think that any member of our group, now maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that any of us is willing to say that there was no degree of staging at all at any point in this story. Because am I correct that all of us think there was at least some modicum of staging of a BS narrative to throw everybody off the track about what really happened in this case, one way or another, correct? Even if it's as simple as propping the doors open and all that.
Or the notes themselves.
Or the notes, right? So there's some degree of intentionally misleading.
I agree with that.
That am I the only one who feels that way? That
no, I think that's probable. Yeah,
some degree of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Chris, do you think so too?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're flying a plane with no windshield, and to say, okay, well, there's a windshield would be not telling the truth. I mean, the evidence right now is assembling a plane, but we're missing the windshield, and so absolutely, because again, for me, now that I've actually been there, and we're going to talk more about this tomorrow night, Kara, so I don't want to tip my hat too much, but this whole idea of the non-possibility of that is just doesn't fit right now. There is a possibility that you and us and others have been going, okay, wait a minute, we need to look at this a little bit harder. Well, people are chasing bodies down in Mexico, okay, and crossing over and multiple times. Not saying that she couldn't be there, but there's a much more logical place where she could be. And you notice, even subtly, the sheriff has said multiple times and folks missed it, and they keep missing it. And what he keeps saying publicly, he has said this, is this, we believe this is local, and we believe it's in the Tucson area. Well, that's where I went. Why does he believe that? Well, and that's where my sources, said, hey, you need to go sniff around here and kick some bucks, kick the brush, because nobody else is doing it. They're sitting at their desk waiting for leads to come flowing in, through technology. That's that maybe I'm just old fashioned, but that's the difference that I think we made in, 7 days.
Well, I think that this also happened in the Michael Vaughn case, and one day you'll be able to talk about that a little bit more. And,
but I can say what I can talk about that for a moment. The FBI left Fruitland Police Department hanging after a year and a half.
Yeah, they gave
left.
it.
They walked away and said, this child walked away. End of story. They called the Cold Case Foundation. They called, Brandy called you called me. I got the Cold Case Foundation involved. I got embedded with them for 4 months. And lo and behold, we already have one guy who's already been bound over for murder.
That's right.
And now we're just waiting, for the next 3.
As soon as the other person gets freed from their other charges, they'll get bound over as well.
And there were things that we did that I helped coach, the agency, and said, hey, let's, go through A, B, C, and D. And we did. And lo and behold, I got burned because I was seen, number one, at the press conference, which I told the chief I didn't want to be there, but he ordered me to come out with him. And number two, you can see me on the video in the jail when we're interviewing the primary suspect. And YouTube burned me on that too.
Big time, man.
So this isn't my first rodeo. And for people that think I'm retired, you're wrong. You're completely wrong. Gary knows I work a lot. Bob, I work every single day. And so, whatever it is. But in this situation, they're just not doing what should be done. Now, I'm not saying the troops on the ground. I'm saying the administrators, not the folks out in the field. They're busting their butt to make things happen. But you can only go to your supervisor so many times and say, I want to go over and pound the streets in Tucson. And they go, no, that's Tucson. And so, again, I did a round robin and actually got hold of Tucson myself and said, hey, what the heck's going on over here? Have these guys contacted you? No, nobody from Pima County's come over here. Why not? What do you mean? No. Okay. And again, like I said, I'll flip the switch tomorrow on Twitter.
Yeah, you say, yeah. And you also have a show coming up tomorrow night, and you're going to have, most of the gentlemen that are on here and some others as well. So make sure
Big Dan on, Big City Dan and Maureen, Bob,
so make sure
Gary, and John.
Absolutely. Check that out and hit that notification bell. That's going to be an excellent show.
Josh,
please.
Can I just expound on something Chris touched on? So, and I think I can speak for everybody on this. Our criticism of Nanos my criticism of Nanos is a criticism of Nanos himself. It is not of the Pima County Sheriff's Office. And I know Chris feels the same way. The men and women, whether they're in uniform, detectives, jail, whatever, they're doing a great job. It's unfortunate that that they're in a situation with the sheriff, but the criticism is of him and not the boots on the ground, as Chris said, nor is it the criticism of the FBI agents that are working this case.
Yep.
And I think they're pounding the pavement. I've said a number of times, and I'll say it again right now. I think they're working suspects. They're doing exactly what they should be doing. And this case is very complicated, as we all know. It's going to take some time, but they're hammering away at it. And it is not a cold case, and we will see some results at some point pretty soon, I do believe.
Bob, and this is maybe you can follow up here. How is there a timeline of Hurt being caught on camera if there are allegedly no timestamps as stated by Nanos? It's a great question.
Well, it's probably a cloud upload.
Well, yeah, when they
okay,
when they when the FBI got a hold of Google and recovered that, there would be a timestamp on that end, and not and so Nanos wouldn't have that information,
right?
So.
And I always remember I was out on a walk one time. I was listening to the interview room, and one of the things that you said that kind of stood out to me was you said Nanos really painted himself in a corner when he put out that timeline to a T. When he, like, you said, you're like, he should have never done that. He should have been very vague about a timeline and all that stuff. And sure enough, it's all come back to bite him. Where he's
right.
He mismanaged not having a public information officer. That's what they're there for. I mean, that's what they're trained to do.
He has. I don't know the gentleman's name. I've seen him in the background a couple of times. I also saw him give an awesome press briefing on an officer-involved shooting in Pima County just here recently. I don't know, a month or 5-6 weeks ago, but I watched it on YouTube, and he did an outstanding job, in my opinion.
Where was Nanos?
I'm sorry?
Where was Nanos at?
Well, I don't know.
He wasn't at that press conference?
No, I didn't see him there. And who knows whether he rolled out to a deputy-involved shooting or not. But anyway, this PIO was there. He did an awesome job, and I know he is a regular PIO. I don't know if he's the PIO or if they have several. I would think that they would have several, but I believe that this gentleman was the lead PIO.
Yeah, we'd probably know who Nanos is by now, but not the way that we know him if he would have used his public information officer properly and kept things vague. If you go and look at the what is it, Celeste Rivas case down in Los Angeles, the David D4, whatever.
Found the body in the trunk and all that.
Nobody knew who the chief of police was until they arrested him. They were criticizing the police department, but they weren't criticizing the chief of police because he never spoke publicly. But he had public information officers speaking.
LAPD has some of the best PIOs in the business, in my opinion, and they do a very good job. They have a whole media relations unit.
Sure.
And when you see their officer-involved shooting videos on YouTube, they're produced by their media relations unit, and that's where all their PIOs work out of. And then they have their own production studio. They do a really, really good job with that. So very, very skilled.
Exactly. And in using them for, the right reasons.
Right.
Well, I think that's it. Let me see. Hold on. One more. See, in my opinion, they may know where the watch was because they took it off of Nancy so she could not be tracked and remembered where they set it down. Yeah, I mean, that's possible for sure. How about those Giants, Josh? We're the worst team in baseball. That's that's what I mean.
That goes without saying.
What happened yesterday? Did you see what happened yesterday?
The Cardinals?
No, with the Giants. It's all anybody's talking about. They were going to pinch run for Rafi Devers in the 9th inning. They sent the rookie out to go pinch run for him. He wagged his finger at the manager saying, no, shooed the runner away. Well, the umpire had to remove him from the game because once you make that move, you can't go back. And That's the $300 million man for the Giants he was refusing to get off the field. I mean, I've never seen anything like that in my life. I've been around baseball since I was 2. I've never seen it. It's like embarrassing at this point. It's just,
Why do you wear that hat?
Huh?
Why do you wear that San Francisco Giants hat?
I have to.
How many times have I talked to you about that hat? A lot. As a friend.
A lot. I usually ignore you about it, though.
Josh, one more comment. Somebody said in the comments that PIOs are handed a script, and that is not true. I was a PIO. I've done it a million times, and PIOs may write their own script and then read it, but they are not handed a PIO, especially on larger departments. LAPD, for example, they're not handed a script. They may write their own, but they are giving you a first-person account of what they know and what they can release at that time, depending on what it is they're talking about. So that's BS. They're not handed a script.
Very good. And wasn't Karen she was one as well, wasn't she?
Yep.
Exactly.
She went to the FBI school of the same one Bob went to. What was it called, Bob?
Well, I took my class at the FBI National Academy. In fact, the man that I took it from is affiliated with the Cold Case Foundation. He handles media relations.
Right.
The Cold Case Foundation. You know who he is.
Yep. Yeah.
Imagine image of the porch guy was to be deleted from notifications. Also, the motive was to taint Savannah's image. All the money you didn't protect your mom. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty far way to go to taint somebody's image, right? I mean, that's personally what I think, but who knows?
Thanks, Bob.
What's up?
No, that was a great comment, though.
Yeah, we're all speculating for sure. I mean, look, who knows? But anyway, so that's it for us tonight, Chris. Your show tomorrow is, what is it,
8 Eastern.
8 Eastern. Okay, so
Harry's going to be a little late. He's got patience, so we'll be waiting patiently for him to weigh in.
Yeah, make sure to avoid the hoodlums on the way home from the.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy, man. I've been seeing videos on X of the subways in New York. It's like terrifying.
Combat zone.
Oh.
Hey Gary, I'm still waiting for Islands in the Stream. When are you gonna put that one together?
Well, I'll answer that offline. There is an answer. I did look into it. Yes.
All right. Okay.
Awesome, Bob. Thanks for coming up, and always appreciated. And Chris, thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
And Dr. Gary.
Thanks for having me.
We'll have you guys on the show tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it. And then you said Wednesday you also have Ramsey. And also, if you have not, check out Dr. Gary's piano page. He's putting music out like crazy, and possibly an accordion solo. No. Okay. Well, I tried.
Josh,
yeah.
Go ahead, Gary.
No, I was just going to say, and keep on reading The New Evil, and it has been enormously helpful that the people who watch Chris's program and Josh's program have really bought that book en masse, and it has really helped. Spread the word about the book. It's led to all kinds of media appearances and so forth. You know what I mean? It's like it just keeps going out there, and it also leads to other book projects and other invitations.
But your work also stands up when people see it as well, so it deserves to be out there. And it's a fascinating book. It really, really is. And you guys did an awesome job on it. It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. I'm not allowed to announce it yet in detail, but I have agreed officially to appear on an episode of a very well-known true crime program. Everyone will have heard of it, but so that's really cool. So I'm going to be filming for that next week. And there's a show I filmed for investigation.
Oh yeah, yeah. You told me it's the Real Housewives of New York.
Oh, very funny. But I think it was Investigation Discovery did a show that's coming out soon. I'll announce that at the time, which is pretty cool. And so I'm getting around.
Awesome.
But I really thank everybody for that. For buying the movie. I'm very proud of my work in terms of what I've put out there to contribute to how we think about offenders and mental illness and all of that. And Chris and I are part of a group of people who are finally turning to the bend in terms of wrapping up a book with I think 17 authors that are all.
I've been hearing about this thing for a while now.
Well, it's a lot. You try. It's like herding cats.
I don't want to write
authors too. You know what I'm saying? It's not easy. And
you guys have been trying to tell me to write a book, and the best I can do is a children's book, and then I am working on that.
Well, I mean, it'll be worth it when it's all over.
That should just be a cut and paste, right, Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah, like little numbers that you just.
You've heard about my children's book, though, haven't you?
No, please
no.
Go about this.
Yeah.
Corey Richards wrote a book for grieving.
No, I'm in the process of. I've been writing a book for a while.
It's called Poison Me.
It's about the three wise men traveling to Bethlehem, but it's through the point of view of the camels. The camels are the ones.
Nice.
The camels are the main character.
Which end? The front or the back?
Both.
Okay.
The main character is called Talsy.
Asking for the camel, huh?
Yeah. Talsy was a throwaway camel whose hump isn't very big, but he gets chosen to carry one of the wise men. So
Wow.
It's called Christmas Hump.
Very nice. Well, you know what they say when we were in 7th grade, smell you later. So I'll have a good night.
Take care. Bob, when
the Christmas Hump is I don't know where that came from, but it's funny.
When I first told Chris, or when I first told Gary about this, he goes, wow, that's so awesome that you wrote a book as a child. And I go, oh no, I was 36. And he goes, oh.
That was pretty bad, Josh. I felt sorry for you.
I think he was frightened at that point, but that's okay. But anyway, all right, I'll send you a first edition copy signed when it's done.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for coming. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Josh, before I go, we got to figure out when we're doing our next serial killer episode in the series,
and who we're gonna have on it, or who we're gonna do it about.
Well, the more I think about it, the more I think I'd really like to do Zodiac.
Sure.
Zodiac, there would be a lot of views in addition. It's just such a fascinating case. But I would not do it if it was not a total, complete, top to bottom look at the case. And that means even looking at potential non-canonical kind of, pre-canonical victims, people that have been thought of as potentially being earlier victims of Zodiac. And all the problems with the investigation, and all the way that the letters were interpreted, and all the the clues we have to this person's identity and the major suspects. It's really a lot. To be honest with you, if there's anybody in the world that I would want to have on to talk about Zodiac, it would be Tom Voigt, who is the guy who runs ZodiacKiller.com. I don't know anyone who knows more about Zodiac than Tom Voigt. I bet you he'd come on if you asked him.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But I have always wanted to be on a podcast with Tom Voigt. I think he knows that case backwards, forwards, and upside down. And so I do have someone in mind that I think is the strongest likely candidate for it, and I do not think it's Arthur Lee Allen. But I have serious problems.
I think it is.
I don't.
I know we've talked about it.
I have serious problems with Arthur Lee Allen as the suspect. But we could talk about Zodiac, even just in terms of like understanding the psychology of him and all that. I mean, the Lake Berryessa murder alone, you could talk about for all day. It's just
one of the most fascinating cases.
Oh, so you know it intimately.
I do.
So that's one we could talk about. Another one I think would be really interesting to do a deep dive into, although it is not a serial killer case, is Columbine. And I know that you have very strong interest in Columbine.
Made a documentary about it.
Right. And exactly. So I was wondering maybe we could cover that. And the problem is that I know for a fact from other people who create true crime, from TV people who do true crime, that you get very low response from the public when you talk about mass shooting incidents. It's just not a widely popular thing to talk about. So you may feel weird about covering it in terms that many people will not want to hear about it.
It is my highest viewed video.
Oh, good. I mean, good in the sense that
I think on my Columbine documentary, probably 800,000 views.
That's interesting. I wonder who the people are who watch it. Well, we it is very, very intriguing to talk about. I'm also very interested in the subject of people that were mass murderers or single murderers who I believe, if left unchecked, would have been serial killers, which is a whole other topic. People who are motivated in the serial killer way when they commit a mass murder or a single murder or even just a double murder or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's an interesting one. The other one that I think is absolutely fascinating to talk about is Albert Fish. But it would be very hard to do that in a way that you could get away with because it's just too disturbing. And I mean, the things I've learned about Albert Fish, even in my private research about him, are fascinating. I mean, I'll give you two simple examples of facts that I bet the general public doesn't realize. Here's one. If it weren't for Albert Fish, there would be no Mad magazine. Now, that's true. I'll tell you why. Because the person who was the psychiatrist in the Albert Fish case, Frederick Wertham of Bellevue, I believe, was so disturbed by the case of Albert Fish and his perverse reading as an inspiration for his crimes that in the 1950s, when EC Comics was producing Tales from the Crypt and Haunt of Fear and Vault of Horror and all those comics, he led the charge that literature was going to lead to violence, partially inspired by his experience of Albert Fish, which then led to the Comics Code Authority and the cheesiest comic books ever created of all time, dopey, comic books that were all you could get out, right? And so EC Comics, forced to remain alive, decided it needed to come out with a magazine that was not going to be affected by the Comics Code and created Mad Magazine. Mad Magazine was a direct result of Frederick Wertham tearing down the comic book world, and that was because of his upset about what he had experienced and what he had learned in the Albert Fish case. So that's fascinating. Another simple little thing that I found absolutely fascinating. Albert Fish was brought down by a cockroach. What happened was they caught Albert Fish because of the stationery he used when he sent perverted letters to people. And that was stationery that he would always ask for in this place that had a very particular stationery with an embossed heading. And he would always say, "Could I have a piece of paper? Could I have a piece of paper? Could I have a piece of paper?" And what happened is when they went to investigate this boarding room where they had sort of tracked this homeless looking man using a fake name who had assaulted a child, they were looking all around the boarding room that had just been vacated by an avuncular looking little old man, and a huge cockroach ran across the wall and ran into a cabinet. And the police chief, in an agitated mood that he couldn't catch anybody, opened the cabinet to kill the roach. And when he did, found this huge stack of hoarded stationery with this address and name on it. So they went to the place that the stationery had on it, and they said, "Oh, we know where that stationery came from. That little old man comes and borrows it all the time." And that led them to Albert Fish. The clue that led to the takedown of Albert Fish was a freaking cockroach. And, I want you to know, I have crazy stories about Albert Fish. I mean, I literally went to this garage in Manhattan, and I go in and I knock on the door, and they're like, "Yes, could we help you?" Whatever, and I'm like, "Yeah, could I take some pictures in here?" And they're like, "Sir, we don't know who you are." And I'm like, "Look, this is the house where Grace Budd lived. and from which she was abducted by Albert Fish, and it's been turned into a garage. Could I please take some pictures? They're like, okay. And then I literally retraced the steps from that home to the train station where he boarded with her and took her off to Wisteria Lodge. You know, and you know, I was thinking of writing a book on the case, so I got very intimately aware of it. And there are a lot of things I can tell you like that people don't connect on the Albert Fish case. And there are things that man did that were so bad. I have, if you get John Borowski's book of the Confessions of Albert Fish, where they're all in there, there are things in there that are so bad that I don't know how we would talk about it. And I'll give you just a simple hint. His favored victims were intellectually disabled children, and the things that he would do to them were pretty bad. Like eating pounds of feces and things like that. Severing, castrating them and replacing their genitals with a globule of Vaseline and telling them that it was still there. Things like that. He was the worst. And, so then I thought, how could I write a book about him and really do justice to how horrendous that case was? And, and I learned so much in my research. He is really interesting, but it would be like impossible to talk about it without people puking. So then we have to find something that's sort of like between the complications of talking about Zodiac and the horrors of talking about Albert Fish. Another one you might be interested in covering is Danny Rowling, given that he was sort of part of the number of people who inspired Kohberger.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he's interesting, and he was also the basis for Ghostface and Scream. You might not realize that.
I didn't know that.
Yes, Danny Rowling was the inspiration.
You like those movies, though.
Right, but he was the inspiration for, and the running around the campus, the blade, and we could talk about him. I know that some people told me they were interested in Son of Sam.
Son of Sam is interesting.
Just in case, I really don't want to do Dennis Rader, although I've been asked about it. There's something about him I just don't want to talk about. I didn't write about him in The New Evil. Maybe when he's dead and not around to enjoy it. But so he might be good. Another one that I think no one talks about enough, because he's a very intriguing case, is Richard Cottingham. We could talk about him, although he's horrifying. David Parker Ray.
David Parker Ray is an interesting one.
Although we would have to play a little bit of the tape, even though it's very triggering.
Yeah.
So, but you got to remember, I'm like walking around with, factoids in my head about a lot of people.
We've covered some bad ones too. I mean, we did Richard Ramirez.
Not Albert Fish bad.
Nobody's that bad. He's the worst of the worst.
What about Dean Corll? Remember Catherine Ramsland wrote a book about Elmer Wayne Hemsley, the one who killed him.
Yeah, I think we talked about that on the witness box.
But we didn't do an episode, although Dean Corll's another one. Oh, I think I got it. Let's do John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, we need to do Gacy.
Let's do Gacy. And I have stuff here. I have artifacts from the Gacy case that I could show that people would find interesting. I have quite a number, actually. So we could do that. I think that's a good one because, and there's a lot of footage of him. We could talk about what a slimy psychopath he was.
The worst. Disgusting. His face horrifies me. I hate him.
And the way he talked.
We did Israel Keys. We did a whole episode on.
Yeah, I can't listen to John Wayne Gacy because of the way he would talk out of the side of his mouth. I don't have that way of talking out of the side of his mouth. That and I think that. Yeah, I really can't handle it. You know that he was named after John Wayne, the actor.
No, I did know that.
Right, which gave him this complex about that he was supposed to be like a tough guy, but he was like, I remember the incident that his sister would talk about where they walked in on him wearing heels, and it was like the biggest disappointment of the, It
always happened like with Gein and it's like a lot of those guys have like major insecurities, man, like major. So.
Well, there are a number of them that were interested in cross-dressing and things like that, and were shamed very intensely as children, and then it led to an almost perverse fascination. So, for example, Jerry Brudos was, like chastised by his mother when he brought a pair of high heels home from the garbage dump, and then, as a consequence, became sexually aroused at the mixture of discipline and punishment and badness surrounding women's shoes, and it became a lifelong sexual fetish. He took that to a whole other level, literally. And so there's that. We could do Jerry Brudos. That's an interesting case. So I think, but I really think we should do Gacy. And one of Gacy's attorneys is a friend of mine, Karen Conti.
Oh, really?
She defended him on death row. She wrote a book about it.
Well, she'll talk about him.
Maybe she could come on.
We could do the serial killer book thing at the same time.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe she would love to talk about her book. She's a friend of mine. And it's a good book.
I'll have to read it.
Memoir of, I think I wrote a blurb for it. It's her memoir about defending him on death row. I mean, that would be fascinating. She knew him well. I'll ask her.
Yeah. Are you going to write a blurb for my book?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes. It'll say something like suitable for wrapping fish, lining bird cages.
When it's a New York Times bestseller, I'm going to shove it right in your face.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was. I bet John Waters will buy every single copy.
Probably. I'm telling you, dude, it's going to be a hit. And then adding the new camel, Harry Trucato.
I think aren't you going to call it Velcro?
No, I'm calling it Harry Trucato.
God help us. I want you to know that, although I cannot reveal where, because I was sworn to secrecy, I actually was turned into a character in a book. There is a book out there where the character is based on me. The person who wrote it 100% based it on me. But I'm going to take to my grave.
Well, in this one, Harry is going to, as he's walking, water all the plants on his path. One of many things. And then he's going to give little factoids too.
Okay. By the way, Josh, yesterday I hung out with my brother and Koosh.
Love those guys.
They're the best.
Did you tell them I'm a fan?
I did, actually. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. I think I watch them all the time. They're awesome.
Yes,
so funny,
they're hysterical. Well, Koosh has a restaurant now. So.
Yeah.
So I went to a little eater.
Has he done his Madison Square Garden yet?
My brother?
Yeah.
No. I don't know if anybody even knows about that he might do.
He announced it.
He did?
Yeah. He's it's like that's crazy to get Madison Square Garden.
Well, yeah.
That's crazy.
He's pretty funny.
He's pretty funny.
I mean, look, we are very different, and yet we're not. That's usually the way it is.
We're the same type of people, but we're major different interests.
Yeah, you actually remind me a very great deal of my brother, which is probably why we get along. I think my chemistry with you is partially because you
like a low level slob.
What?
Like a low level slob.
No, I don't think you're slob at all. But my humor with you, the way we play off of each other, and it's funny in a kind of odd couple way, is precisely because of my dynamic with my brother. Like, that's exactly why we're funny together. My brother and I are hilarious. Like, for example, when my brother first became a comedian, there was a shtick that I created with him where I was giving him a vocabulary word, and he pretended to be someone who was like, not particularly literate and had to guess what the words meant. So I would give him a very long, like, sesquipedalian vocabulary word, and he'd be like, yeah, I know what that means. And then he would define it. And it was hysterical because you could see why somebody would think that's what the word meant, but it was totally comical. And, the contrast is funny. But I'll tell you, I have studied comedians. They fascinate me. And I'm sorry, am I keeping you? You gotta go?
I got to go in a minute, but no, you're not keeping
me. The 60 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have studied them. I am fascinated by them because they are very influential, powerful people in many ways. They could work a room, you know. And one of the things I have discovered is really at the root of being funny is placing the humor in a very serious context. For example, the funniest Mel Brooks movie is Young Frankenstein, precisely because the black and white, the serious settings, and so forth are a backdrop that makes the ridiculousness of the dialogue funny. And because you're not supposed to laugh, and yet what they're saying is zany. And I think that's sort of the secret, is that it's all about, like, you need that backdrop. So that's why, like, the straight man is funny.
Right.
But the straight man makes you funnier because their reaction is so dry. And so I think, even though I could be very funny too in my own way, my at least I think so.
I think
on purpose, probably, but my brother is overtly funny, you know, and purposely funny. And I think that the two when we're together, I act as the kind of Bud Abbott to his Lou Costello, and it becomes funny.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. I happen to think that I happen to find him funny because everything he ridicules, like, I lived it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I saw it. It's only slightly exaggerating.
Right. Plus, he probably thinks like your interests are ridiculous, and you think his interests are ridiculous.
But I want you to know that I would do stand up.
You'd be good at it too.
Absolutely do stand up, and I'd be very funny at it too, I bet.
Absolutely, you would. I know you would. You are very funny. It's funny that and a good sport too. You know, a lot of people sometimes they go, "Oh, you're being mean." I mean, you see the comments. You know, there were people like, you know, be easier to Dr. Gary. It's like,
but you're only kidding.
I'm only kidding, and you give it back to me too.
But the point is that I act like I'm serious, and that's what makes it funny.
Sometimes you are.
The point is to slip in the humor where it's not expected by being serious. You're like my brother. You go for overtly funny.
Right.
I think it's funny to slip it in and sideways, sarcastic, or say something where a person doesn't realize you're being funny. You know, unless you're clever enough to catch it.
Like mocking.
No, not mocking.
Well, one
just
time
wordplay and things like, you know, Barry Humphries humor. You know,
like one time I asked you how I could find out what's wrong with me, and you said you would need a panel of specialists and a lot of money.
No, I said a panel of specialists to appreciate a challenge.
And you said how it would cost a lot too.
But I don't know. You would like to do stand up, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I've done it a couple of times, but only locally at very like small. I would never want to be like a traveling stand-up comic. I just think I know people that do it, and it just seems like a miserable existence. It's just something that I would not want to do.
Right.
You know, I just would hate it.
But I also am very, very amused by absurdist comedy. So, like, for example, I think Andy Kaufman is hysterically funny, but not everybody thinks he's funny. But like, there's something about him, like, where he would use silence to be funny.
Yeah.
Remember, like the Mighty Mouse thing, and he would put that record on, and he would just stand there. And then when it went, "Here I come to save the day," that was the only time he would talk. You know, that was funny to me, but that's not everyone's humor. I also find
what about like
humor funny, like Pee Wee Herman.
What about Don Knotts?
See, I think Don Knotts is funny because he's a clown. He's a rubbery clown,
and
he used physical humor that was hysterical.
Well, his physical comedy was like top notch. I remember when he went on Conan O'Brien one time, and he was talking, and Conan O'Brien was like you're my idol because of, you know, the physical comedy. And then, you know, Jim Carrey said the same thing about Don Knotts. Is just the funniest guy, man. That's why I love
looking and elastic. His face is so elastic. Look, the British humor, I think, is probably my favorite, especially where there's a lot of wordplay. But I think that to me, the secret of humor, really the secret, is that it's music. There's a rhythm to how you deliver something to make it funny, and you have to think like a musician. It's about the patter, and the way that you say it is what makes it funny. That's why, like, there are tropes, like you say things in a triple so that the punch is on the third, right? Like, why are you exercising? you know, to fit into my summer wardrobe, to fit in my winter wardrobe, to fit into my bathrobe. Like that's fun.
Or
Rhythm is funny. Right, yeah.
Or like callbacks, you know, like you tell a joke early on and then you kind of keep going back sort of to the well. And I like people that I like comics that can do crowd work, you know, and stuff like that and incorporate, you know, people into it. But, you know, yeah, stand-up comedy is one of my like favorite things to watch.
Oh, yeah. So who's your favorite stand-up comedian?
Patrice O'Neill.
Of every comedian in the world?
Yeah.
Not like for example, Eddie Murphy as a stand-up comedian. You don't like. What about Richard Pryor, Rodney Dangerfield? No.
Patrice O'Neill.
Really? That's very interesting.
Well, I do, but I like Red Skeleton too.
I like George Carlin.
Yeah, he's pretty funny.
I think George Carlin was brilliant, and he was very musical because he would memorize long lists of things, and that's what made
it fun. Watch Patrice O'Neill?
Yeah.
Did you ever see his stand-up special Elephant in the Room right before he died?
No. Should I?
It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, I'm glad you gave me a recommendation. I always need good comedy.
He tells a joke about being he was a severe diabetic. And he said that he's like, you know, I have this horrible disease, you know, and like, he's like the other day I was just in a store and they had Oreos that were dipped in white chocolate. And he's like, and I had to sit there and I stared at him and I had to tell myself, I don't need both of my feet. Like, good God. And then he said, I only need one so I could drive my car. Like, he was dead sick. Like, yeah, he ended up dying from complications of diabetes, but he was a brilliant comic, and he did that last show knowing how bad his health was because he never took care of himself when he was diagnosed with diabetes at like 20, and he died 20 years later from it. But it's like kind of a farewell. You know, like he's joking about the whole thing. It's pretty amazing.
So I thought Robin Williams was your favorite comedian.
Robin Williams is probably one of my favorite people. But as for stand-up, he's hilarious. I love his movies, and I never watched a lot of Robin Williams stand-up, but I watched everything that because he did stand-up. I wasn't even born when he was doing stand-up, but Rob is one of my favorite people.
There were a couple of very zany comedians that I knew actually who are now dead. Kevin Meaney, I knew. You remember him?
Yeah.
Put on your big boy pants. You're gonna poke your eye out with that. I knew him. He was really, really funny guy. And I also knew Emo Phillips, who was the bizarre comedian of the 80s that used to talk like this. You remember him? And he was hysterically funny. I mean, he had lines that were like, because his whole thing was that he sounded like a moron, but his jokes were actually extremely sophisticated. So, like, for example, he would tell the joke, someone came up to me today in a movie theater and said, "Excuse me, is this seat saved?" And I said, given that even St. Augustine argued that animals have no souls, how much less chance does the seat have of gaining salvation? That kind of thing. And then, like, the person would look at him like, you're a nut job. Like, that's funny. And so I knew him and a couple of others. But the thing is, like, the 80s had a different breed.
Yeah, I like
Urkel was funny to people.
Andrew Dice Clay.
What?
Andrew Dice Clay.
Well, I knew Pee Wee Herman. I knew Paul Rubens. I thought he was one of the funniest people. But you know, in real life, he was not funny. He was very, very serious.
Pee Wee Herman?
Oh yes, Paul Rubens. He was very serious and very, very sad. He's dead. Yeah. And then it turned out that he had been hiding for all his life that he was a gay man. But the thing is, like, you know, he never overtly, you know, he never admitted that he was, except posthumously that came out. But the thing is, but I knew him and I thought he was a very nice man. but he was very heartbroken, very serious, not at all the way you would imagine. And so, but there are a number of them that I have gotten to know over the years because of, it's a long story how I met them, but then like I would stay in contact with some of them, and I just think I always found them to be some of the most heartbroken people I've ever met. I got to see George Carlin live.
Most comedians are very like self-loathing, self-deprecating.
What humor is. It's like
But they're also some of the smartest people in the world. You don't want to get in an argument with a comedian. Like you don't want to, have a battle of wits with those guys because they're just too sharp.
Don Rickles.
Don Rickles might have been probably one of the funniest people to ever live.
Oh yeah, he was. I was just watching where he went after Julia Roberts at an award show because they were neighbors. And
you don't have to lines, just nod, yeah.
Yeah, just not, yeah.
Yeah.
You hockey puck.
He was
very, very funny, but in those days, stand-up comedy is very different animal because you were limited in what you could say. I mean, there were people like Joan Rivers that took it, overboard. And she's funny too.
Funny.
Sorry, but she's funny. I don't care what anybody says. She is funny as hell, and sometimes totally inappropriate. Had nerves of steel with what she would say about people, but she was funny.
Oh, I was a huge Joan Rivers fan. So talented and so funny. But yeah,
blazing.
What about Sam Kinison?
Oh yeah, I loved him. He was a preacher before he was a comedian.
No, I didn't know that, but that doesn't surprise me. I was a big fan of his.
He was very funny. They said, "Why did you leave?" And he was like, "Well, I wasn't very good at making money." So I laughed. Like right. Nobody would give me any. I would pass the basket. Nobody would give me anything. But him paired with Rodney Dangerfield was unbearably funny.
Right. I think that might be Bob's favorite. He loves Rodney Dangerfield. He quotes Rodney Dangerfield the same way you quote Sherlock Holmes.
Rodney Dangerfield is impossible not to find funny.
Oh, he's
because of his musicality. His whole thing was that he would tell a joke, and it would be funny because it had that. He was rubbery. And he would deliver a line rapid fire, and it was musical. He had a cadence that was funny.
It wasn't even about what he was saying; it was the delivery. Like it was just the
right. Exactly. There are certain accents that are funnier. You know what I mean? Like everything said in a certain accent can be hilarious. I think a Brooklyn accent, for example, is always funny. Watch The Honeymooners.
Oh, I've seen it.
It makes every single line hysterical because
you
ever hear somebody speak at length in a Brooklyn accent?
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's funny as hell. It's got that kind of musicality. I mean, I hear it all the time. I grew up with it. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
the stories are ridiculous, like this. Hey, listen, I talked to Aunt Teresa yesterday. She's got to go, that woman. Anyway, I call her up. I says, listen, you're going to bring the spaghetti over tomorrow? She says, I can. I'm 86 years old. Who cares? Roll yourself over. Throw it up. Throw a couple of noodles in the pot. Like there's something about that way of talking just funny as can be.
My uncle, who was from New Jersey, he would.
They're funny too.
Oh, okay. And he would kind of have that, he had that Jersey, and he would always say like, he's like, you keep it up, I'm gonna throw you in the river or something, something.
Well, that's like Bensonhurst.
Yeah, well, that's exactly.
Throw you in the river.
Yeah, you say, I'm throw you in the window. I'll throw you out the window. You say that.
Window. No. This is Bensonhurst. What you're doing. So the Bensonhurst thing is that you swap ER and OI sounds. So you earn. Instead of I earn 3 points, I own 3 pernts. I own 3 pernts. You understand? So you say, I had to put some Earl on my skates, not oil, earn. And then long A's become short. Like you wouldn't say radiator, you'd say radiator.
Yeah.
Radiator. And the other thing you do in Bensonhurst speak is because it really is like a language, is you repeat things in a very strange way. Like you'll go, somebody will come up to you on the street and say, can I borrow $1? I'm hungry. Hey, what do you think? I'm rich? I got $5 I got.
I'm walking.
No, they say it like that. I got $5. I got.
Right.
So it's like this. I don't know where that comes from. I think it's an Italianism, actually. But that so you say it's that thing of repeating. I got $5. I got.
Yeah, I mean, Italian Americans. I mean, they came all through Ellis Island, and that's where you're at.
Yeah, but I love it. To me, it's like a language, and I get such a huge kick out of someone who talks like that. It's been so long since I've heard someone organically speak that way, but it's the music of my childhood. Hey, kid, stop touching the freaking pigeons. I'm trying to teach them to fly. Well, I'd be like, all right, don't worry, sir. I'm not going to. You know what's going to happen if you pick that pigeon up? It's going to pluck your eyeball out, and I'm not going to stop him. My neighbor used to talk to me. He used to put the pigeons on the roof, and I would try to touch them.
Why?
Because I thought they were interesting.
Pigeons are disgusting.
Well, I understood that some of them were very valuable, like a grizzly pigeon and things like that. But I used to watch them with fascination.
What are you gonna do? Catch it and sell it?
No. I just thought they were because they were being trained and they could soar and fly. And what would happen is I would go near them to try to free them, or because they were all locked up. I hated it. I used to want to open the cage and let them out, and he used to threaten me. He was really freaky, and he used to yell at me, all the time. He'd be like, "Hey, kid, get your freaking hands off my birds."
Yeah, well, Mike Tyson liked pigeons too.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's kind of weird.
But he wasn't when he wasn't feasting on people's ears.
He only did that once.
That was the craziest thing ever.
Yeah, he was a psycho.
Remember when he talked about it?
Yeah.
I'm
Mike Tyson.
I bit my head off. Anyway, why does he talk like that?
I don't know, but he's one of the only people that I've ever seen. Like, how you run into people where their voice doesn't match them?
Oh yeah.
But his is to the extreme. Like, it's not even close. It's one of the more shocking voices, that you've ever. He's got that huge lisp. When they asked him, like, if he hurt himself, he's like, "Yeah, I hurt my back when I was fighting," and then they're like, "What happened?" He thought, "What kind of injuries?" "Oh, I broke my back." They're like, "Wait, it's spinal."
Oh yeah. I knew a guy growing up. I went to school with a guy who was very large guy, like sort of football player kind of guy. But his voice never changed with puberty. Very, very high voice.
That's rough.
And it was rough. And, so he'd lumber over and, and then he'd be like, "Hey, Tiffany, can I take you to the prom?" And she'd be like, No. He'd be like, "I don't know what's wrong. I mean, I'm a football player, they're supposed to like me." And I'd be like,
Imagine that happening. You're like a gang leader.
Yeah, well, that's funny, but it was really, really. I hate to admit how funny it was, but then eventually he went through the remainder of puberty, and it changed, and then his voice was deep. But it was so weird because he was so enormous. You know what I mean? I remember very distinctly when he would try to be a bully, and it just didn't work because it was like weird. Like I used to want to say to him, like, "Come back when your testicles drop and pick on me," But he would say things like that,
You got much money now.
No, it was really like this. It was sounded like somebody talking with very. Yeah.
Money.
Yeah. No. It was hilarious. Yeah. No, but you have to understand. At first, it wasn't funny, but it was listening to it at length. And by the way, I would pay to hear Mike Tyson recite poetry, or maybe Shakespeare.
I think he probably does, actually. But
to be or not to be, that is the question.
I used to have a guy or a kid that used to come up to me all the time at school, and he would go, "Hey, John, give me $1 for a chicken cheese sandwich." And I would always go, "No." I would always go, "No."
Bully.
Yeah, and then he'd go,
"They take me back.
Give me $1 for a chicken cheese sandwich."
Were you a bully or were you?
No, I wasn't going to give him $1 for a chicken cheese sandwich.
Oh God. I got such a kick out of them because they were so stupid. They were so stupid. I think most of the people that were the bullies in my school, I think they've all been incarcerated, and I could have predicted it. I mean, they're basically psychopaths. They were basically, and they were the two different types. They were the sort of shaved head, future skinhead kind of psychopath, and then there was the more the more like white collar kind of. But you knew the bully of the school was going to be.
Oh, for sure.
You knew what they were going to turn into.
Yeah.
And it was like every aspect of it too. Like everything was a con. If you give me your tater tots, I'll give you this. Like, if you do my homework for me, I won't beat up your brother. That kind of thing. And you knew where they were going.
Tater tots.
Well, listen, it's got valuable commodity in the jail cell of the school cafeteria. No, I'm serious. I got to tell you, I'm surprised I didn't think to run like a black market, like in the cafeteria at school. I should have like snuck in like proper utensils instead of sporks. It would have been high commodity, very valuable.
Went to your school.
I would have been like Red in Shawshank Redemption. I'm a guy who things.
He'd have been running sporks to Tijuana.
Absolutely. No, but seriously, I could have done that. I could have been that guy, like the hollow heel in my boot opened up.
But I don't understand.
Like, here's the Kool-Aid you wanted.
I don't understand how many people went to your school.
Well, which school? I went to
high school.
Well, my high school was a seminary.
Never. Oh, you were gonna do a smuggling.
But when in my last year, when I went to regular
high school, all through high school,
I was in seminary.
Then you were the homecoming king in seminary.
No, I left seminary in my last year of high school, went to school for 1 year, and was such an odd duck that I was inexplicably popular. I think it's because I was just different than other people, and they liked it. You have to understand, when you're in seminary for years, you're not a normal high school kid, right? I mean, I'm like, I was used to priest life, priest-like life, and then I was in a regular high school with ordinary kids.
Did you have to wear those like robes like Nacho Libre?
But I was serious.
Were you like serving soup to people?
No, but you have to understand, Josh. When you're in seminary,
you're
very scrupulous. You're scrupulous, about everything, and teenage years are like you're not scrupulous. So I was like that kid that was.
Why would anybody want to go to seminary school for high school?
I really wanted to be a priest. You have to understand. I felt very cold to be a priest. In fact, I think a lot of the way my life wound up is partially because I didn't go down that road. And I think that as a consequence, my fig tree dried up. You know what I mean? I didn't set the proper fruit. And as a consequence, I didn't get much. I mean, I do a lot of ministry-like work, but in terms of like, I never went down the path.
You think you were smiling?
I think I had a calling and I didn't follow through with it.
I don't know, man.
I'm like that guy that buries the talents,
But, I don't think people get punished like that.
No, not punished. I just think the fig tree dried up. That's what I think. So, and I found a different way.
Who cares about a fig tree?
It's a metaphor. The thing is, I have other ways of doing it, though.
Yeah. I think so. That's what I'm saying. I don't think you miss your calling. I just don't think that maybe that wasn't for you and you found other ways to do it.
I think so. Somebody is teasing me because they're remembering that 15 minutes ago I said I'll keep you for 60 seconds.
Who cares?
But I like when we get to these weird
they're fun
conversation. But seriously, I think that's what happened. I think that was my calling. I didn't go down that path. And if you have a calling and you don't fulfill it, it's going to come out sideways. And I think that's the work I do is essentially like a sideways version of a ministry. And I have a very priest-like quality in the sense of that I'm pretty much alone. I can be very serious and dour and preoccupied with what they call the last things. I'm always thinking about, like, there's not a day that goes by that I'm not reminding somebody, like, what you're doing is a fleeting pleasure, and one day we're all going to be dead. Like, we're all coming to a landing. Like, I'm exactly that guy. It ruins everything. I'll be at the party and I'll be thinking, like, one last thrill on the way to the cemetery. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm that guy. And you know, because I spent years watching people pass away in the hospital, visiting with offenders, working with people that were marginalized. You know what I'm saying? And it changed me. You
So
spend time out in the outskirts of the world, and
you get invited to a party, and the first thing you do is remind people of their mortality.
I think the party itself reminds them of their own mortality.
No, I think you remind them of that, and then they go, "We're never having him back to the party."
No, actually, I get invited to a lot, but I just don't go to them.
Yeah, you get invited once, and then you get invited to another different
I
party.
don't go because I don't want to ruin them.
Yeah, I mean, why would you just keep those things to yourself?
Exactly. I can't make small talk. It's not possible. You know what I'm saying? It's just not possible. Somebody will say, "Nice party, isn't it?" And then I'll say, "What fairy tale are you living with your life? Like what myth are you playing out with your life? Like, are you the hermit? Are you the wounded healer? Are you the And they'll be like, "Gotta go," like, and they'll like run across the road, that kind of thing. I just can't do it. And I never could from the time I was a kid. It's not possible. And I always drove everybody crazy because I knew too much. So like I just saw my old eye doctor from when I was a kid, like walking down the street and on the avenue here.
Yeah.
He said, "I always remember you because when you were a little kid, you remember what you said to me?" And I remember what I said to him. They told me that I needed eyeglasses. And they explained to me the type of lens I would need. And I said, and this is absolutely true story. I must have been about 8 years old. And I said, "You don't have to explain it to me that way. You mean light falls too short of my retina." And he thought that was the funniest thing. And to this day remembers the story that I said that as a little kid. But,
You
it's our life.
you and my son have like a lot in common.
Really? Is that true?
Yes.
Which one? Peyton?
Yes. He's
Oh, he was
very,
like that when he was a
very
kid.
liberal.
He was that way as a kid
Yes.
also?
Very intelligent, almost to the point where you just want to go like the other day on Father's Day, I threatened him in public. I said, "I hope somebody calls the police too." Because he was just like being so snarky about everything. Just
I would like Peyton. It's true.
I
I've
told him to go
heard
get a
him
box.
online. He's funny. Yeah.
I told him to go get a box so we could like wrap up our food. And he says, "I don't like eye contact and that my anxiety is high." And I said, "Get up and go get a box."
Oh.
And then he stood up and he said, "But I'm not going to look him in the eye." And I said, "Do whatever you want." It was just like unbelievable. But then he did look him in the eye. It says stupid stuff like that.
Well, but that can be people who can be very dry like that. They can be very funny.
Somebody wants to know what your IQ is, Dr. Gary. I know you never tell anybody what your IQ is.
So I think that's like one of those a gentleman never tells.
Yeah, but it's also like relative. Who cares?
No. It has nothing to do with my relatives. No,
So
but
the people that you don't have, like, that's not an exact indication of how intelligent somebody is. There are people that are intelligent in many different ways.
not at all. It doesn't have anything to do with. No, there are some aspects of IQ that are inherited and some that are not. But seriously, I like when we have our wrap up at the end because we always go off.
It's always fun.
And yeah, it's fun, and I think human. I think it lightens the heaviness of the conversation. Some people love those little parts of the conversation. It's funny. This is the only show where I ever really talk about my background. I hate to talk about my back, but you have that Barbara Walters thing where like you sort of get me to.
I get you up.
But yeah,
because secretly, deep down, I'm the genius.
I think there is an art to what you do. I mean, you set a person at ease. You get them to open up. Next thing you know, they're telling embarrassing stories. To a few thousand people. But you are good at that.
I do. I kind of rock people to like lull them, and it's just us. It's just us. Don't worry about it.
Sort of like in that Guthrie interview, there was a moment that I remember being struck by where Hoda instead of saying, tell us, like in other words, it's like millions of people watching. Tell us what happened that night, whatever, whatever. She says, tell me what happened. And I thought to myself, actually, it's quite clever because it creates an intimacy where you forget that you're in front of an audience. And, that's a technique that works. So like if I go in and do an interview with an offender and there's another doctor with me, I would never say, tell us. I'd say, tell me.
That's right.
It creates a sense of intimacy. Although in that situation, you have to be careful because it could create a splitting dynamic. Or
There's
something.
also something.
I guess I wouldn't say never. It depends on the situation.
Well, look, there's also something to be said about somebody who you're willing to have a conversation with, who is willing to be open about their life as well. It's not just, where I just want information from you. It's I can relate, or I can kind of see it through your eyes as well. So when you say, I did this and this and this, I'm not just letting you say it. I'm also telling things along the way as well. But sort of just being an open book is sort of a kind of a gift and a curse, but it's just sort of the way that I've chose to live my life. Is that I don't mind telling people about the hardships, but I also don't mind telling people about just my life. I think, why not?
I mean, you have to understand something. One of the things that makes me saddest is to be misunderstood. Okay, this is, on the Enneagram, this is my 4-5, kind of thing, right? I don't like being seen as having a motive that is different than my actual motive. And my motives are generally pretty good or noble, but they get misinterpreted sometimes. And it drives me crazy because I would never harm a person or be cruel or whatever. I hate it. But sometimes I get misinterpreted. And I find that experience very painful and shaming, and I dislike it. And I also don't like when people think that my motives are like base. You know what I'm saying? I don't care for that.
Right.
So like, for example, if someone said to me, like, I think it's gross that you take coffee tips for playing the piano. Like, it's not just that I think that's offensive that somebody thinks like it isn't any work to write the music and take time out of your ordinary job to do it, so God forbid somebody give you, coffee. It's also offensive because there's an implication to it that like it's slimy to do it. You know what I'm saying? And this, I think I just don't like being misread or misinterpreted. I find that very, very sad. But what it is that I never like being viewed as being motivated by a selfishness. I can't stand that. And what I think is that when someone asks me a question, if I answer it in a way where I'm talking a lot about me, I always feel selfish. I don't like to do that. I always like to turn it on the other person because I really see myself ultimately as that anything about me that's worthwhile has to do with the fact that I've shrunken myself down to just be like a springboard for other people's stuff. I like the not being in the mix.
Well, it's funny because, a lot of people do tell me a lot of things, some of them personal and some of them, they say, don't tell anybody, or can you keep this between us? And I absolutely 100% always do that. But one of the things that I think that has always sort of benefited me, especially getting older, is nothing shocks me anymore. Some things surprise me. Like I'm surprised, but not shocked, not like, I just go, and so when people open up and they tell me things, you have people do this with you as well, because you're a doctor. They tell you these horrible things that happen to them. And I get people telling me that because of the horrible things that have happened to me in my life. So they go, well, I can confide in this person. And I get a lot of that, and I'm completely fine with that. But I'm never shocked. I'm never horrified. Like, I'm disappointed. I'm sad that, these things happen to people, but none of it is shocking to me anymore. Nothing shocks me.
Well, that makes you a wonderful person for a lot of people to talk to, who have had experiences that nobody would understand. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I pride myself on the fact that I'm not going to have a judgmental reaction to anything because I've heard it 100 times.
Correct.
I mean, if a person comes to me and says, "Look, I got an embarrassing perversion. Here's what it is," like, I'm going to be like, "I heard that 100 times."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, a person comes and says, like, "My family hates this about me. This is my dirty secret. This is I collect this weird thing. I'm a dork because I'm interested in whatever. I did this terrible thing years ago and I can't forgive myself." That I've heard everything, and I think I don't care what anybody says. At the heart of every religion and every philosophy and every school of thought, there is no point in having rules and and things that people do that are sins or wrong or whatever, if the heart of it is not mercy and a free floating sense that in the final analysis you are a creature of God. And so the doesn't matter what the heck a person has done underneath all the muck and mire of their life, they still have that dignity and they're still, human in there. And it's very, very hard to do that. But I try really hard to do it, and I try to shrink myself and not ever make a person feel that I think that I'm better than them in any way. So I've gotten very accustomed to dodging when people ask me questions. If someone says, "Do you want to have a birthday party?" I'll say, "We could go out, but I don't want to celebrate my birthday. We'll just go out. It'll be like a celebration of our friendship, but I don't really want to celebrate my birthday." It's that kind of thing. It's a, so when you ask me questions, I answer them because I'm friends with you. But the reality is I don't really.
Well, but I'm genuinely curious.
Right, I understand, right?
I'm
But
not
I'm
just
tell you, it's unusual that I answer you. Is what I'm trying to tell you.
Sure.
Normally, I dodge the crap out of you.
Yeah, I know. And then I keep prying. I stay there.
But I think your curiosity can make a person feel that you care. So then I'll answer you because it's a legitimate care in the question. It's not like you're asking just to make small talk.
No, I am absolutely fascinated by humans and their conditions and how they've grown up and how they have also sort of, found their way through life and got to the point that they have, because you see people that are walking, like, that are homeless, right? And and you always just go like, how did that person end up there? I wonder what happened in that person's life. And they would have this fantastic, and I say fantastic not in a good way, but there would just be this epic story of how they ended up there.
That's what you want to believe. But most of them are not that different than us. They just lost a paycheck.
But at some point, maybe that person was an engineer. That person worked for, I knew a guy that worked for Ted Turner. He was a homeless guy. He was like a CEO of TBS but he was just a homeless guy on the street. And you would listen to him talk. He was brilliant. He was a homeless guy. And
yeah,
it was just
a homeless guy.
What's that?
Jesus was a homeless guy.
Yeah, but he also made furniture. He did. He was a carpenter.
He made everything.
Which is also odd.
He made everything.
Well, they didn't really have many things.
He made everything.
No, I get it. I get it now. I get it. Yeah.
Pretty good for a homeless guy.
All right. I got to take these dogs out.
Anyway.
Good time. All right. I look forward to the show tomorrow, and look forward to seeing you on that.
I have a long day tomorrow. It'll be like comatose by the time I get, but I think it's important.
Sorry. Yeah, it'll be good. All right, man. Thanks a lot, Dr. Gary.
Take care.
Bye. Let's see. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And you guys are all awesome. Fantastic show. And we'll see you on the next one. Make sure to check out the interview room tomorrow. And check out Dr. Gary's piano page as well. Get him up over 5,000 subscribers, and he will be flowing on that thing soon. If you like that kind of music, if you like piano music, it's awesome. Thank you, mods. I know it wasn't an easy night for you. You guys are awesome. I know it was a lot. Appreciate it. Thank you to Bob, John, Chris of the interview room, Dr. Gary, mods, everybody that watched. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I think tonight we had at one point about 7.3 thousand people, which is a new record for the lab viewer in one night. So thank you so much.